to the One of Yours podcast for Friday, August the 22nd. I'm Garnet Lee. Glad to have you here. First of all, because of the tremendous public outroar.
Uproar is a word. Outcry is a word.
Outrage.
Outroar, outrage.
Upcry?
Did you have your bottle opener?
Upcry, outroar, whatever. We have new guy Giancarlo.
Giancarlo, you just started in this industry.
I did just a few weeks ago.
What were you doing before you came
Fresh
to this
out of
industry?
school.
I was teaching gymnastics for a 6th grade class.
Are you making fun of Dennis Dyack? Because Dennis Dyack was a...
Oh, was he?
He was a gym
No.
teacher.
That's not a shot at Dennis. No.
You sure? You could have worked for Yahoo. I mean, it's what Cammie did before she went to Nintendo. Yahoo.
Yeah, I'm totally new.
So John Carlo's here. We also have Shane, as usual. John, who's now made this a completely regular thing again. Thank you very much.
He seems to like it. This morning I ran into him on the bus on the street, and he was all excited. All excited about it.
I was giddy.
And Andrew Pfister. Andrew Pfister here.
Welcome back.
Wearing his brewer shirt.
Garnet, welcome
Thank
back.
you. It's great to be here.
Garnet's.
But anyway, so here's what we're going to do on the show today. We're going to have, first segment, we're going to do what you've been playing. Second segment, we don't have a clue what we're doing, but it'll probably have something to do with Two Human reviews. I don't know. We'll babble. You'll listen. And then we're going to have news in the third segment.
I like how that wasn't an option for them. Like, you will listen to what we come up with.
Well, I mean, you could tune out if you want, but
have
that would
anything
defeat the
for
point
what
of
you've
having
been playing?
downloaded the damn thing.
I have some games.
You have some games?
But I think we need to explain Giancarlo first. He used to work here at Official PlayStation Magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah, he like swept the floors or something,
Something
right?
like that.
Yeah.
And he went away.
Jerk.
He was at he was at Nintendo Power for a while. He was at Game Tap doing colorized movies or something. Now he's back.
Yes.
And I was
With his first job in the game at editorial
for
business.
Turner.
Yeah.
And what's your last name again, Giancarlo?
I don't even know at this point anymore. It's
All
been
right.
butchered so many times.
Yeah, I always wonder how to pronounce it, and I always make up some really fancy Italian pronunciation that's probably all.
You notice how I
That's
slid
fine.
right
No,
past
I'm-
and didn't say shit. I was
I
like,
was going to call him Giancarlo.
It's just wait.
Giancarlo
Veronini.
I would call you
Veronini.
that's easy. I can do that.
Variano.
Well, I would have gotten it right.
Giancarlo. It's not hard. It's not hard.
Giancarlo Viviano.
It's not hard. People are killing me.
Sorry.
Yeah, as the victim of many Garnets and
Are we done with the
Garrett's
Italian
and-
racial slurs
I
now?
know.
I don't know. Are we?
We need a second segment.
We haven't gotten to the German racial slurs. I'm sure going to happen because of Games Conference Leipzig.
Oh,
That's right.
I just waiting for you to mix in an oven reference again.
I thought that was going to get edited out. Stern glance at Skip.
I forgot.
Oops.
You don't need to know. You were here, but you don't need to know.
What kind of podcast is this?
I don't know. What did he say?
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. It's not
Let's move on.
Oh, I do remember.
and actually, you don't. And
You don't.
actually, it never happened.
It never happened.
So,
But if I were to have... yes.
yes.
So,
No.
Garnet, you were
Yes.
on a plane for 14 hours.
Yes, I was.
Twice.
As a matter of fact, I was.
Did you just watch the films, or did you play some portable games?
I played a portable game, but it's still embargoed, I think.
Which
I
one?
was playing.
We generally disregard
games that are embargoed.
We generally disregard portable game embargoes
Oh, do we?
on this podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, I was playing.
At least Shane does.
I was playing the.
I do.
I was playing the English version of Star Ocean.
Oh.
Oh, the first one.
Yeah,
PSP.
and it's totally Star Ocean all over
Well, and
again.
it's funny. Well, no, I haven't played Star Ocean 1 since it never came out in English ever. So, tell me more about it.
Oh, well, so tell us.
Tell me about it. Since
Tell me about your
it's
homeworld, Usul.
Never come out in English before.
It's the funniest thing. I mean, have you played the Star Oceans before?
I played 2
Okay,
and 3.
so
2 and 3.
Star Oceans are cool once they get going, but the problem I always have with Star Oceans is the same problem I have with this one, which is that it always takes at least 2, if not 2.5 hours of forcing yourself through all of the beginning
That's
to
kind
get.
of that's a classic JRPG thing, and this thing is old.
It
so,
is.
you
Star
know.
Ocean's extremely versed in that design school.
So 2 hours in, you feel like you're still in the.
Oh no, I'm like 5 hours in now. Once
Okay.
you get going, it falls into that same pace of lots of combat, and then you go to a town. It has a crafting system. It has a cool skill system to it.
Okay,
It's
so
actually if you're into JRPG,
How
it's very well put
redone are
together.
the graphics? I know they added a bunch of anime cutscenes, but are the graphics themselves still Super Nintendo quality, basically?
Which part?
The
The-
overworlds, battles, towns.
No, I'd say they're actually kind of closer to PS1. Yeah, they're pretty close
Is
to
it
PS1.
all top down, or the battles?
No, it's weird. So it's weird. It's very strange when you're adventuring in the overworld because part of it will be in that 3D world, sort of like early PS1 RPG screen, right?
Isometric, or
no, like actually a real 3D world with
Skip
a little.
just swallowed a yawn.
I'm actually curious about this game. I know we had it.
I'm just quietly worried about the embargo that I might have to edit all of this out.
No, it's been out in Japan for like a year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's been out in Japan for forever. It's just the
okay.
English versions. I mean,
Great.
so you could play the Japanese version as much as you want. So you,
And it's been out for Super Nintendo for like 15 years.
Awesome. Now,
Yeah,
I'll,
I mean-
now I'll yawn.
when you're in the outdoor environments, most of the time it's just like plain textured, very very flat 3D environment where you're running around. But then you'll go, so like you leave, so the area that you're on the first continent has like a mountain range in the middle of it, and when you go to the mountain range, suddenly you're in a top-down view. Like you're in a top-down isometric older school view. But then you come out of the mountain range and you're suddenly in a 3D adventuring world like Final Fantasy VII.
So it's a little all over the place.
It's kind of all over the board with that, right? But it looks good. The anime cutscenes, I mean, yeah.
Which one's the best Star Ocean?
I would say 2 and 3 are both
2.
flawed and awesome in interesting ways.
2.
Okay.
2's annoying though because it's impossible to see the whole game the first time through or get even half the characters the first time through.
But that's fine. You just play it through. It's fun. You have a good time. Then I didn't go back and play it a second time. I just had a good time with it. If you like Star Ocean, if you like an action combat RPG that has all of the trappings though of a traditional RPG outside of that, with like the inventory system, character management, skill system, the ability to create items, all that kind of stuff. It has all of that stuff. Very very deep. Good.
I think it's not as high profile as like Chrono Trigger DS, but in the same way, it's a classic Square SNES game that never came out here before. So it should be on some people's radar. I'm excited about it.
If you're into the RPG scene at all and you want to play it on your PSP, don't hesitate to put it on your list for the fall. When's it come out? Like September. Late September.
Yeah. And then the second one comes out shortly afterwards. So I believe so.
The second one would be the same one though that was on PlayStation.
Right.
So I've already played that game. Like you said, go back and play it for extra characters. I'm not going to go back and play it. I have a hard time going back and playing RPGs. Do you guys go back and play RPGs at all?
I used to. Back in the day, like when you're a kid and you're in like 8th grade and you can't buy a new game every week.
Yeah.
It's awesome to go get 10 endings in Chrono Trigger. I did that.
Definitely.
Or like I played through Final Fantasy 2, 4 like 5 times back in the day.
I made a couple runs through Final Fantasy 8, but after that,
Through 8?
Yeah.
Not
Really?
7, though.
You went through the junction.
I think I went through a half of 7.
You did junctioning and drawing more than once?
Yes.
You're a more patient man than
I actually liked it. I
like junctioning and drawing, too. Why do people always knock
People
that
are
shit?
sick.
I never finished Chrono Cross the first time through, and I always wanted to go back. And I tried to go back once, and I stopped playing at the same spot I stopped playing.
Chrono Cross.
Chrono Cross.
Did you stop playing when your party was like a frog, a cactus, and a chicken?
No, I stopped after.
That's near the end.
There's a point where you have to hunt down 6 dragons.
Yeah.
And I got through half of them, and this is boring.
Yeah, you mean the part where you go back to all the places you've already been for the 10th time?
Yeah.
That part? Yeah. Yeah, Chrono Cross.
It's unfortunate. I didn't finish Chrono Cross either. Didn't really get very far.
You missed the obnoxious final battle and horrifically embarrassing full motion video ending.
But that's always been one of those things that kind of baffles me is that whole, well, I'm going to play this role-playing game and I'm going to go back and play it another 3 or 4 times because for me, a big part of the appeal of a role-playing game is the discovery of the plot lines and how the characters interact. And once you've done that, once you've been to the places and actually seen them and all that stuff, it loses a lot of its appeal
That's to be said
for
for
me.
any narrative linear game.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's a big part of the RPG culture is to go back and play multiple times. I'm going to explore this character creation style this time, or I'm going to go down this skill path.
Well, something that was also always fun too was actually for me is to go back and just grind and level up my characters really early on.
Yeah.
So that I felt like a badass really early on in the game, but as RPGs evolved and whatever, and as enemies started leveling up with your level, it kind of just defeated that whole thing. So
Right.
I think
So you're kind of in the Dragon Quest school.
I think we're foreshadowing a little bit the T-Human chat we're about to have.
Oh, we could do that.
Foreshadowing.
Yeah.
So is that the only game you've been playing in the last week, more or less?
Well, that was my travel game.
You've been
And I read
back.
that awesome book that you gave me, The Devil in the Kitchen, which, by the way, is
the memoir of Marco Pierre White, the most amazing chef ever.
So
you were in England looking at all the restaurants he's been at.
So first of all, I'm amazed because I'm really only about 5 chapters into it, and I need to have some more time to read it.
Your opinion on Gordon Ramsay hasn't been soiled yet.
Hasn't been soiled yet.
It will be.
That's a shame because I do enjoy Gordon Ramsay's television persona, but I mean I'm not attached to it.
It is a simulation of him, of Marco Pierre White.
But what was really
this
cool?
is quite the digression. But
What was really cool is that I got to the part on the airplane. I got to the part where he starts talking about his first trip to London. Right as I got to London, and lo and behold, the cab took us freaking to Sloane Square, which was where he was talking about hanging out. And every morning we were getting up in the morning and going down to Oriel and eating breakfast, which was the place that he said.
Dude.
all those people went and hung out.
That's uncanny.
And I was like, this is so fucking weird.
That reminds me of the time I was in Tokyo with Kevin Gifford, and I was reading this book by Ryu Murakami about this huge American guy who came to Kabukicho to strangle and rape prostitutes, and he was just like Kevin Gifford. And we were staying in the hotel, in the same hotel where he was staying in the book.
All right, moving right along. So yeah, I have been playing some other game. Wow, I'm still sort of.
You shouldn't have digressed. It made me digress. I'm sorry.
You guys have like legal counsel on staff still?
We should.
So what are you playing there?
Maybe Garnet can move into that position. Executive legal counsel.
No,
Yeah.
I cannot move into executive. I have
general counsel.
I have no general counsel backgrounds, unfortunately.
Last week's show was too sedate. We need to,
Oh, we're rocking and rolling already.
Pump it up.
So let me just go on to the other thing that obviously pissed a lot of people off, which was I downloaded Braid and I started playing it, and I realized.
You mean the A+ game?
Yeah, it's because it exists. Nick Sutner. Oh, this game exists. A+.
Hey, that's mine. That's my line.
Well, I know. That's why I did it for you. It's awesome. Do you know David Ellis did it for him already? Like, have you heard the joke he was playing?
No.
He went and asked Ryan what the next game Nick was going to review is, and he went and grabbed a copy of the cover of it. It was like A+. Nick Sutner.
Just today, Nick Sutner said, "I think I'm the least controversial reviewer here at 1UP." And I said, well, you're a lover, and lovers tend to be less controversial than haters, so you got to find something to hate.
Yeah, so, I mean, here's the thing about Braid, is I sat down, obviously, to play it, already having heard everybody gush about it, and thinking to myself, wow, this game is going to be so fantastic, which I admit does, it really puts you in a hard spot when you're sitting down to play a game and you already have that high anticipation factor for it. But, I don't know, the overall feeling I came away with from playing it is that it's a game that you play, as I put in my Twitter that I made about it, got everybody pissed off about it. It's a game you play to like make yourself feel smart, and I think there are games that were more discernible for like if you want to like work out logic puzzles. Like the one that came to mind for me was Intelligent Cube. Do you remember Intelligent Cube?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was one of the, to me, all-time best reasoning and logic puzzle games where everything makes sense. There are parts of Braid where I'm looking at the screen and I just cannot piece together what I'm supposed to do next, and it hasn't told me what to do next. And when I finally figured out, it's like, we could have explained to me that tapping the shoulder buttons has like a speed control, or...
Well, see, you make a really interesting comparison, because I think Intelligent Cube makes sense because you're in this bizarre world doing strange things, and none of it's ever explained, but it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need to be explained.
But in Braid, I was like, well, I wish they could have told me all my powers. Like,
right.
You're kind of supposed to experiment and find these things.
I guess. I mean... The
other
unevenness.
I think it is clever. I think it is
very
actually clever. Like I was watching David Ellis play this one puzzle where you have to like go into one of the jigsaw puzzles and like move things in that, and that actually affects what's happening in the real game world. So you can move a platform that you couldn't get to before.
Yeah, how
that
would
kind
you
of thing is very clever.
ever on earth think in that sort of weird abstraction?
Well, but it wasn't something you had to do. It was like an optional secret. So.
Well, there's an early level where you have to actually.
I think you're talking about the same thing,
Well,
and I came across the same problem as you did. Like, how am I going to figure it out? And I only figured it out after I ran out of like any other options I could possibly think of. So I took a look at the puzzle piece again. Like that kind of lines up. Oh, that looks like a platform.
Oh,
so
yeah,
if
exactly.
I move that piece, yeah.
It's very. I don't know. It's
But
not
don't you think-
intuitive enough.
No.
It's
Okay.
not. It doesn't. And I hate the word intuitive because oftentimes when we're like doing reviews or whatever, we use intuitive to like use like,
Yeah.
this giant catch-all of how you're supposed to figure out games by
But there's a
figuring them out or
difference
whatever.
between like hand holding, which is bad, and then
Right.
just giving you enough cues to be like.
That's a good way to put it.
Or
It doesn't have
or
enough cues.
forcing you to get it wrong to learn
Yeah.
how to do it,
Yeah.
which is
It
sort
does
of
do that.
old school game design.
There are no penalties. You can use the rewind as much as you
Right.
want.
Yeah.
And I feel
But that doesn't make it better.
I feel that this game is slightly overrated, but I think it fills a gap in the Xbox Live Arcade world that was really there. There's nothing like this. It's very
Yeah.
unique. It's very artsy. It's very
I'm very glad
different.
it exists.
Yeah, I think it's.
I'm
good-
glad
it's
it
good
exists. I cannot defend it as the first game or one of the first games to break the price barrier, because like playing that game, I'm thinking to myself, really, of all the games that are out there, this is the one that broke the price barrier, and we're going to make this big argument about how it justifies itself.
Yeah, I'm not in love with the graphics. I like the music, but I think that the graphics are really my only problem with it. I don't like the character. I don't like the art. It looks like an old British 16-bit platform.
Interestingly,
As I said, it looks like James Bond.
It border like I love the backgrounds in the game
I
and
do
stuff
too.
like that,
Yeah.
but it almost borders on like that Flash game look to it a
Yeah.
little bit. Like,
Yeah.
and that really kind of rubs me the wrong way. But more so than that, it's just there's sort of this aura of like pretentiousness with the game.
Well,
and like
yeah.
and it but I mean it extends beyond just
I
like
think
those books
aura
and
is
things.
polite.
I think it's very polite.
But I mean, it extends beyond those books and the
Stench.
story and the things like that, where it's like, instead of the hand holding, like the game is almost expecting you, like, you should know this, you idiot. Like, and that's what makes
that's
me
not
want
fun.
to keep playing. Yeah.
Well, that attitude is carried over into the website as well, where it gives you the how-to guide, which then basically insults you for needing to look at it.
Wow.
Well, and the irony there is that, in all honesty, if you go to using some sort of FAQ or a video for this game, you are pretty much destroying the game. I mean, that pretty much is that's the end of the game.
Conceding it.
Almost
You're
everyone,
conceding.
all my friends, I've been to their houses. They're looking at videos to solve those puzzles. They are.
Because, and here's another thing that to me highlights the inconsistency of it, is that different people will look at the game and get stuck in different spots because every one of the puzzles is so tailored to some headspace that you're in when you're looking at it and it clicking with that. And so if
Yeah.
it doesn't click with that, you're just really probably staring at a wall.
That's why I'm slowly making my way through the game. I'm only gonna play it in pieces, like maybe 1 or 2 puzzle
Yeah.
pieces per time, because keeping up that level of mental concentration and then having it switch so often.
I guess, I mean, I'm sitting there looking at the game sometimes, and a couple of times when I've been playing it, and I felt like that dude in Mallrats who's sitting there looking at the damn 3D.
Exactly what I thought of. Too,
It's
yeah.
like, did you really?
And I can't see those.
Can you see
things.
those?
I can't. I can see.
I can
them.
see those.
I can see
yeah.
them.
Can't-
But
yeah.
No, I've never seen one of those in my entire
Dude,
life.
it's amazing when you see the 3D dolphin come right out at you.
That's why I love Mallrats so much. Like, yes, that's me.
Mallrats is underrated.
But yes, Mallrats is underrated. But it's that moment. It's like you're that guy sitting there looking at the 3D image, except it's Braid, and you're like,
well, but
this is just fuck you.
I think Braid is a nice, clever little game that got vaulted into some sort of
Yeah.
insane ivory tower of magic that it can't possibly live up to by
That's-
people.
Okay, so that's fine. And the other side of the price thing is that I think that it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Creators Club when that hits this fall, because I think that this sort of game is like the very early herald of the sort of things that you'll see really, really flush out that whole system.
Who was telling me that the Braid dude apparently spent $186,000 of his own money to make Braid?
Well, that was the justification. That was the justification
Yeah.
for the pricing scheme.
That he, out
Really?
of his pocket, that much money. And like, I don't think every XNA kid is going to be able to spend $200,000 on this game.
Right.
I don't think so either. I think you'll see a lot of creative product that's done for a much lower price because look, it's a competitive place, right? I mean, look, 1UP has been very, what's that expression? Punch above your weight. Right? 1UP has been able to really punch above its weight by having people who are into it and, go out and put a lot of effort into it. We've never had the same size staff as a GameSpot or an IGN, but we've been able to hang in there. And I think the same thing will happen. You see people who are really into it, have like a creative idea, they really want to do it. They'll bring their friends in, they'll work on it over the weekends or whatever it might be so that they can create something that's really cool.
Well, if you're not feeling Braid, play Bionic Commando instead.
Yes.
That's my
Yes?
Yeah.
I stink at Bionic Commando. I stink at Bionic Commando.
It took me a couple tries to get through even like the tutorial.
Yeah?
And so I'm
I
like,
think I spent like 3 hours last night trying to beat one dude's time in like those training levels.
All right, I don't feel. You know what? I
those are
immediately feel
brutal.
better about
Yeah.
myself now.
Like those training levels are brutal because a lot of them are where you need like the last ditch, like shoot your arm out, make this leap of faith, and if
Yeah.
you miss it, you're fucked.
Yeah,
Like, a lot of them.
The crazy thing is about it, like I did actually like the harder ones first in the first grouping. I'm like, okay, this isn't too bad. And then I did the first one. I'm like, holy crap, this is hard. And it's like really simple.
Right.
Like the harder ones almost fit better with just the mechanics of the game. But when you have just like 3 stationary platforms, you're supposed to go straight up. It's like really hard for some reason.
No.
So
Wow, I feel way better now. I thought every time I play that game, I just feel like, wow,
Everyone thinks it's
I
hard.
suck.
In fact, Capcom put out some like pointers today to teach people how to play that game.
on the Unity blog.
Yeah, they did.
What do they call that thing? The Unity blog.
Unity, dude.
Unity with
Resident Evil 5. You need some Unity after that, huh?
seriously. What do you think?
About
Resident Evil 5 and the co-op, like the big stuff that came out of Leipzig. I mean, I don't have that in my Leipzig notes actually.
I haven't been playing it this week, and that's the segment we're currently talking about.
Well, I was just okay. I was
Garrett's a bit
digressing.
rusty. He's
Sorry.
Yeah, you've apparently forgotten how your goddamn show works.
This is my goddamn show, so we'll just run it however I want to.
Do you need
all right.
another beer? You're still
No, I don't need another
you're
beer.
solving
I'm
that
fine.
one. What else have you been playing? Is that it?
Well, I'm playing Too Human.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit.
Do that in a little while.
I mean, we talked the hell about it. I actually, when I got back, finally had time to sit down and go into the PlayStation Store and buy Eden and sit down and start playing Eden. God,
Are you a hater or a lover?
of Eden?
Yeah.
I adore Eden.
Okay.
I mean, Eden might be my most favorite game of at least the last 6 months.
Whoa.
Because I tell you, here's the thing I like about Eden is I sit down and play Eden, and And someone asked me about this because it has the time clock in it, but for some reason the time clock doesn't bother me because it's very easy to recharge. And when I don't recharge, I still had a good time. I will sit down and play Eden, and it's the only game I know of that I sit down and play, and when I put down, I feel relaxed.
You don't feel stressed.
No, I feel the opposite. I can sit down. I can have had the worst, most annoying news blog day and go home, and it's like super late, and dinner was late, and I'm freaking pissed off, and I'll play Eden for 45 minutes or an hour, and I'll be like,
I think the music is
wow.
half of it. The ambient music is awesome.
Yeah, Bion did some awesome work with the music. I agree with that. But I think that the dynamic of the way you play the game is really cool. The different levels are cool. So, the ones that have the winds blowing through them, and the way the different plants and everything. The more I play the game, the more I respect. Like, it's not just a visual game, but there are a lot of physics being played out in like the plant material. Like, like there's places where if you jump against this petal of a flower or a plant or whatever it is, it'll make it start swaying, and it's swaying in rhythm. And if you can get yourself looping around it in rhythm, then you can get a bigger slingshot effect. There's a lot of stuff going on in there that it isn't something you immediately click to, but it just helps the game be a better game, a more engrossing gameplay experience.
I've been saving it. I have it. I've played a little bit. I'm waiting for some lost weekend.
Dude, just play it.
It's very relaxing. Like, I don't get stressed out when I'm playing.
See, same effect. Awesome.
Yeah,
but it's not like Flow, because you can die. I mean, it's not like.
But it doesn't matter because so you die, and I think one of the things that clicks for me about that is that you go back to the same gardens, and so you're always getting more spectras, right? So the first time you go into the garden, it's very easy to get one, right? And then two, probably you've already seen where a second one is. 3, you probably at least have an idea where the third one is. It's not until you get to the 4th and 5th spectras that you're actually really being pressed to work in that garden. So you've already gotten to explore the garden. You're not being told, oh, you can't see this part of the garden or whatever. You can have the entire thing open to you to play around in, and then there's the later challenges to get to. And if you get frustrated with it, you can always hop out to the main world and go to a different garden and come back to it.
I mean, there's definitely something to be said for low impact, easy in, easy out games that don't stress you out or piss you off. Because as much as we all love Geometry Wars, like, it'll piss you off. You'll get pissed off.
White hot rage.
Dude, it ramps super hard. Oh, I started actually fooling around with a bunch of different games. Super Stardust, I upgraded
There's
that.
a bunch of new expansion. I haven't bought the new expansion yet. But.
Yeah, so I was fussing around with Super Stardust, and you know what? That's a game where I think that's probably like Bionic Commando is, where you have to be playing it and be in the rhythm of it, and really familiar with there's like certain moves that you want to make, and do you blast through, do you blast behind, which guns you use in which situation, like how close can you cut it to an asteroid before you die? And
it's not as punishing as Geometry Wars.
No, it doesn't seem to be as punishing. I'm not sure why.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it has some stuff in it that means that you can get out of the way easier, and just the fact that you have more control over the weapons
the boost,
really helps.
I mean, for me, it is
and the boost.
The boost.
Yeah.
When I went to GO2, I was like, wow, I really missed that boost.
Yeah, the boost is cool.
Because you're invincible while you're boosting. You get double points when you go through things when you're boosting. Like, it's pretty integral.
It is. That's a good point. That's a really good point. What do you guys think about trophies on PS3?
That's not a factor for me. It doesn't motivate me.
Don't care.
So, because it wasn't there right from. I think it's going to take a few games to have it at its like if Resistance 2 has trophies at the core of its sort of motivation, then I think we'll get into it. But going back and retroactively saying, "Oh, now you get a bunch of trophies," it's sort of like.
Well, I mean, but don't you think that like when Home launches, that's going to be a bigger deal? That trophies like once you have the physical...
it needs to be more integrated. Because right now it's just a few things here and there, and I mean on Xbox Live you're used to you can get a really quick, easy gauge of anyone on your friends list that's playing the same game as you on how far they've got by just jumping into their profile and seeing like Two Human, which we'll talk about in a minute. You can go in and you can get an idea of how long they've been playing it by how many achievements they have already, because it doles them out at a fairly regular pace,
right?
And you get used to the conditioning of it. But with the trophies, particularly as it applies them retroactively, all it says is, okay, this game you bought a year ago, you played a lot,
Right. I'm curious to see whether it's going to catch on or not. I mean, for me so far, and I'm not the right person to make a judgment call about it anyway, because I'm kind of over gamer score in the first place. Like, it doesn't do anything for me anymore. I don't play PS3
games enough for it to matter to me either. Because it's not the system that I tend to play games on. I play the stuff that's more exclusive to PS3 on PS3, and everything else tends to. And very often the stuff that we're sent, you get the 360 version first.
They do send a lot of 360s out.
Right.
Probably because it's easy to burn DVDs.
Well, I just bought Soul Calibur 4, and I was hoping that the game came out late enough that it would have trophy support.
It
and as
does.
far
You
as
bought
I know,
PS3?
Yeah, I bought the
Cool.
PS3
We'll have
version.
to add you and fight you.
Yeah, and I bought it, and I was thinking, okay, cool, it'll have trophies. Like, I'm not going to miss out on not having achievements or whatever. And it doesn't have achievements, or it doesn't have trophies. And I'm sitting here playing through it thinking, man, I wish this really had achievements or something. I wish it had something. Just, there's still that addictive element that I think even trophies bring to a game.
Although, actually, on the 360 version, the achievements they're not that well integrated into it. Like, there'll be times where you're like, it'll say, and it'll have some bizarre description of what it is, and you'll be like, what did I do? I have no idea what I just did. Why did I get an achievement for it? And it'd be like, took 1,000,000 steps in single player or something, and it'd be like...
That sounds like an Oblivion achievement, doesn't it? 1,000,000 steps in single player.
Well, actually, did you hear they announced some more of the achievements for Gears of War 2 this week?
Oh,
it's
yeah?
like... I can't remember what it's called, but you have to kill 100,000 bad guys in single player or any campaign mode. Either
That's going to go back to that
player.
Gatling gun scene.
Wow. What's it called? Oh, the Seriously achievement. It was in the first one, and they've retooled it for Gears of War 2. And it's any kill outside of multiplayer counts, but you got to get 100,000 to get the achievement. Wow.
Seriously?
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 Aptly named. Cliff knows how to name his achievements.
On the Soul Calibur 4 tip, did you see, did anyone watch Yahtzee's Soul Calibur 4 review?
No.
Oh, God. Fucking dude kills
Is that the no punctuation guy?
Of course, Zero Punctuation. Dude, tell me you watch.
I don't know his name.
Oh, you don't watch Zero Punk?
I've watched...
Dude, it's hilarious.
Zero Punk?
Zero
Is that
Punk?
what
Yeah, wait.
I don't know. I just
Headshot kids are calling it?
I just said that. I don't know.
I've seen one or two of his work, but I feel like you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all.
But they're like like a weekly repeat. I love it. He is kind of like you've seen one, you've seen it all, I guess. But
Yeah. But I was playing a little Soul Calibur, not as much as I would have liked this, because we still need to fight. Skip.
I know we do.
We need to fight.
We fought once. I won.
you're just looking for people to beat up, since evidently David Ellis kicks your ass all the time.
His Mitsurugi is scrubby as all get out.
Scrubby.
And poor little Tira, she's trying to get up to the Calibur, but not quite.
Are you playing Tara?
I want to learn her first.
I think
she has
Tira
a
would
lot
be
of
a cool
amazing
character to
new
make.
shit in this game.
We need to have another office tournament because
Yeah,
in the
we're
last
gonna
one
organize.
I was third,
Yeah.
and so
Mistakes were made. Mistakes were made last time.
Mistakes were made.
like what sort of mistakes, Shane?
Kathleen beat me. I think her dog beat me. It was.
I beat you.
Oh, that's right. She beat you with Raphael, right?
Something. It
Or
was-
somebody.
I got
yeah.
beat by Raphael.
Yeah.
I was on.
Raphael's a cheap character.
I
He's
was
got
on-
all the
Just that
fancy
one-
shit.
just that
and,
one,
yeah.
the one combo.
That's why I lost.
Yeah.
What we need to do is start having regular just play sessions around the office again, because we used to do that all the time. Like, let's always go over to Shane's
our
desk.
demo room has become the Rock Band 2 room. So.
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, let kids have the Rock Band too.
And
We
I
can
took
go play.
I took my joysticks home.
There's got to be at least 2 sticks in the office someplace. There's one by your
We'll
desk.
figure something out.
Is there?
There's that 360 one that's up on the pass over your, or is that just an empty box?
Probably just an empty box.
Oh, I thought there was an actual stick up there.
No.
Is that all you've been playing this week, though, G-Man?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. There you go. Oh, and some Civ Revolution still, which
I'm still playing that too. Yeah.
why it's not? This is good.
I actually really want to play that.
It's
I haven't
good.
gotten a chance to play it
It's
yet.
really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. The thing that I don't like, and I think we talked about already,
Yeah,
is
what hadn't you gone over in the 5 weeks where you talked about Civ Rev on this podcast?
whatever. Fine.
Something connected to
I
that.
don't really
I was looking through the release list between now and the holidays. Do you know the DS version of Populous is coming? It's got a date now for the US.
From EA?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that, but I was
Xseed is doing it. It's a revamped. It's coming out. It's been redone in Japan and then ported back into English, and Xseed's doing it.
I think it was done by EA Japan.
It was
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, I was at the deal at
You
TGS.
went there, yeah.
But I was going
when they
through,
announced it.
all the stuff that we're going to be covering, and I'm like, Populous? Seriously? I'd completely forgotten that. I mean, like last year, we'd picked up Famitsu had done something on it, and that was probably the only coverage it ever got.
I kind of liked Populous.
Populous
Why did
was
you?
still probably Molyneux's best ever game.
And little known secret, evidently, the game that he would most like to do is Populous 2, but hasn't ever had.
They
a chance
made
to do it.
Populous 2
Populous
exists.
Populous too.
Or okay, the next Populous sequel after that.
Populous
when they
3?
do Populous 2?
I don't know. Like
After
Populous 1?
No, after between Populous and Powermonger.
Yes,
I remember Powermonger.
was very good. It was before Syndicate,
How did I miss Pop 2?
pre-Syndicate.
It wasn't as good as the first one.
Did you play Powermonger?
No, but I've seen it. I didn't play it though.
That was awesome.
Was it?
That was more new, right?
Oh, and the other thing we're gonna have to get to sometime, and when we'll get to it, is Madden talk, because I really didn't have a chance to play Madden. While I was
Madden is
out.
huge.
And
I've been playing Madden.
have you? You know how to play American football?
I do know how to play American football, yeah.
By the way, I was
You
telling
can't use your hands.
My 4-year-old son has been teaching me.
I was telling Simon earlier that you guys are so busted now, because now I realize that you and Simon are kind of stuck in this weird purgatory halfway between.
Yeah, we don't belong anywhere.
Yeah, it kind of sucks, doesn't it?
Yeah, we don't know what's going on back home, and we don't have the historical backstory in the US. So it's just like you have no connection to any. It's so lonely.
You need a gym membership somewhere in between.
But
Sure.
Canada?
Yeah.
But I have been playing
Someplace to
Madden.
belong.
I have been playing Madden.
All right, so we'll have to do. Well, so you can talk about Madden. I can't. The thing that people wanted me to talk about is the online, because evidently everyone's upset about the online leagues and the way that they're 20 games but not a real
People are
season.
also upset that none of the reviews mentioned the online leagues.
Well, I think that's because there just wasn't a lot of transparency on the online leagues. People didn't have a chance to play them.
Because they work fine in NCAA, but in Madden they're balked. Isn't that kind of the...
I heard people could quit out and it doesn't count against them. That's what I heard.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to play some more Madden. I'm going to play some Madden. David Ellis is playing some Madden. I'll hop in a league someplace, play some games. I mean, I do like my Madden. It's football season, dude. I'm fucking pumped for football.
Football season hasn't officially started.
It's great because
it's football
still,
season.
It's still preseason, so the 49ers are winning everything they play. So
They beat the Packers by
They
like
beat the-
70 points.
yeah, I know, but the
That's
Packers.
amazing.
I mean, not to bring up Brett again, but they don't know where to look with Brett not there. Clearly,
by the way, I went to high school with who will be the starting quarterback for the 49ers, JT O'Sullivan.
oh really?
He does look like he's going to be. Doesn't look like
I
he's
sat
gonna be-
next to him in most of my math and science classes, and it's really, really weird to see him being the starting quarterback
That's
of the
cool.
49ers.
Is he a good kid?
Yeah, no, he's a good guy.
When he wasn't beating him up for being the game guy.
Well, he was like the leading, like he set the passing record for UC Davis, and everyone thought, oh, okay, he'll get drafted and he'll actually play, and he did get drafted, but
How long has he been out?
he got drafted by like the Lions, didn't play, then got traded to like the Saints, I think, didn't really
God.
play.
He's been stuck behind some quarterbacks.
He's been all over the place, so it's good to see him getting some recognition. So.
Nice.
And I have 2 fantasy teams. I need one more fantasy team, I think. Fantasy football.
Great.
Whatever. Haters. Useless haters.
Also, following on from our previous obscure baseball games that I want to play, I played another one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on in my life right now that I'm playing all these bizarre baseball games, but Little League World Series Baseball 2008.
I've heard it's good.
What platform is that on?
It's on Wii and DS, so you can imagine that it's little cartoony characters, but it's
You play with your tyke?
not yet.
No.
I was just testing it, but it has a bunch of mini games in it, but on the DS it's actually kind of interesting. The batting mechanic is interesting because you kind of basically do a stroke away from the guy at the angle you think the ball is coming from, and then it measures the speed at which you do it.
Huh. I can see that working.
So for a right-handed guy, you're basically moving the stylus left to right at a different angle, and the faster you go, the harder he hits it. And it feels right for a
Yeah.
baseball game.
How do you bunt?
You just tap the screen and hold it.
Huh.
So in terms of the gestures on the DS, it feels
Is
kind
there,
of
like,
natural.
Gesture fielding and base running too?
No, the fielding is all you just tap on the screen on where you want. It's all pretty much all touchscreen.
Oh, cool.
And then for any of the pitching, you pick where you want to aim, and then it comes up with an arrow, and you have to stay within the lines of the arrow you're essentially kind of spinning the ball, or you're pushing it in a direction. And again, the faster and more accurate you are, the better the quality of the pitch. So again, it's a really kids-focused game
Yeah.
that has a pretty advanced control method that you're like, God, I wish some of the real baseball games would use this because this is so much better.
So what are the teams and players like? Just like generic?
No, it's all official Little League.
Little- Wow.
It's 26 teams and all the stadiums and
Wow.
All the stadiums? What the fuck are you talking about?
The
One
official
stadium.
Yeah, and all the official Little League
Yeah.
fields and stuff. And it's like, I mean, it's a pretty fleshed out.
It's the park at the corner of 24th and Anthem.
It has all the real Pizza Huts for after the game celebrations.
Yeah,
That's the
Awesome.
best part.
License-
Mom shows up with a
licensed minivans.
ice cooler full of oranges at the 6th inning.
It's full of cartoon milfs.
Well, now I know why you're playing. Hey-oh.
While you're describing that, in my mind, I was seeing Michael Phelps Pro Swimmer for DS and Wii from EA next fall.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought about it. It's going to happen.
Because he needs more money.
He needs
too.
more money.
How did cartoon MILFs make you think of that?
When he was talking about the gestural controls, I was like, how could you make a DS game where you're swimming? And someone will.
Just lots of scrubbing
Lots
on
of
the
scrub-
screen.
Lots of scrubbing on the screen. Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe they'll do it on the iPhone. It'll be like dual touch.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go. Michael Phelps Pro Swimming by EA Sports for the iPhone.
They should sue. You should sue when they make that game. Because you just
Yeah,
gave them the idea.
I'm not going to sue for
We have
shit.
precedent now. We talked about it.
talked about
And we have witnesses.
You should put that in an envelope and mail it to yourself. You're
Pretending like someone's listening still. They're all like, this is the worst one-up years ever.
Jesus.
That was
Wow.
last week.
That was.
You playing anything else?
Not that we're going to talk about now, no.
Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, we're going to take a break in a second. What's fucking new guy playing?
Well, like I said, I'm playing Soul Calibur 4, and my biggest complaint here is that so many people fucking hate Soul Calibur 3, but like,
who hates Soul Calibur 3?
Lots of people hate
the
Soul
general
Calibur 3.
populace. I mean, it was a step back, but it wasn't as bad as everybody.
But yeah, but it's like, okay, aside from like maybe some speed differences and things like that, Soul Calibur 4 is essentially 3.
Yeah.
And why is everybody all like, "Oh, 4 is awesome"? And
Because it looks pretty.
Because of fucking Darth Vader and Yoda.
Well, I mean, 3's graphics.
And The Apprentice.
3's
And The
graphics were
Apprentice.
like actually worse than 2's. So that was part of it. Like it was.
That's not the backgrounds. The backgrounds in 3 were awesome. Like
Right,
they
but
tried to do a
alright.
little too much.
I agree, but
like there's
the
too much going
characters
on.
are smaller and less detailed.
But
in some ways.
does that matter? Like
Yeah,
the fighting was still good.
Go on. Keep
Like
going.
people,
it was also it was also really unbalanced.
Get him.
how was it unbalanced?
Have
Like
you ever,
all these characters
have
play.
you played Zasalamel, Sophicia,
That's the thing. Zasalamel, they slowed him down.
Setsuka?
Zasalamel was one of my favorite characters in 3, and they slowed him down.
He's still
in 4.
really good in 4.
But they slowed him down.
Well, because he was too good in 3.
ass.
Well, right, but I'm saying, like, if you knew what to do against him, it wasn't a problem, like any other fighting game.
Yeah, we played tons of 3 at this office, as you may remember, and like
Yeah.
I felt that it got a bum rap from the populace. It was, like it wasn't a bad game in any sense.
I think it's mostly because it wasn't a multi-platform game,
Yeah.
so people wanted to shit on it because it's not on my system.
And also, the Chronicles of the Sword mode was ridiculous
That-
and terrible.
Yeah, that was a stupid
Yeah.
move. I have no idea why that was there,
But yeah, SC4 is basically just like slightly better than 3, really.
yeah, I mean, like for me, I'm almost when I play 4, like I'm almost not bored with it right away, but I'm just like, okay, there's an immediate sense of familiarity here. As with any other fighting game that has sequels, you're just kind of, I've done this
But
before.
the character creation's better. The online more or less works.
The online is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with it. Although
Yeah.
Skip's had some bad times. but
Really?
I haven't gone back to it since
it's
Are you
really-
playing PS3 or 360?
PS3.
But as I said,
Wow, we all have PS3. Are you
Yeah.
playing PS3 or 360?
360.
friend matches.
360.
Friend matches on PS3, which neither of you want to do with me apparently, are really fun.
I'll do it. I have to-
friends list.
All right.
I have to give you my new.
I got it from David Ellis because you really hated your PSN name
I hated
so
it.
much. You made it.
I hated it. I now have like 200 and something friends on the other one, and I'm sorry, folks, it's dead.
Don't say it on here, or you have 200 new friends.
Right, exactly. So anyway,
Mixdown is dead.
huh?
Mixdown
Mixdown
is dead.
is dead.
I'm deleting him.
Then you delete it. It's fine. It's a dead account. So 2 questions.
Yeah.
Do you have a stick, or are you playing with a pad?
I play with the pad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like playing with? I mean, do you actually prefer that one?
For me, like growing up, like playing fighting games on an arcade stick just seems unnatural to me. Like I even learned to play Street Fighter on that really crappy when Super Turbo came out on the 3DO.
Right.
Like I learned to play it on that piece of shit controller. So
Wow.
Wow.
So like I feel like
I'm with you on 2D fighters. However, with 3D fighters, you need a stick.
well, Soul Calibur is kind of like the rare instance where I do almost feel like I need it, just because there's a lot of because you have to kind of move your fingers diagonally across the
Right.
and I don't hold it like that, so it feels unnatural to kind of take your hand off the pad and press the
Yeah,
buttons.
you
and
have to
then-
play it like a piano, and that's not how I hold a controller.
Yeah. So
Only
I mean,
women play controllers.
Yeah, because a lot of the attack combinations are really close XY combinations, or what is that, square triangle?
You should buy the new Hori
combination.
stick. It's very good.
Well, but
It
part,
is really good. The new Hori stick is really good.
But part of me thinks too, I'm so good at it that I don't need like an arcade stick.
Oh, well, okay. Then who's your and by the way, who's your character?
Siegfried.
He's one of my guys as well. He's
Oh.
quite good.
That was a gauntlet being thrown
It
down.
was.
Did
That
you
was a
hear
gauntlet
it?
being thrown down.
Yeah.
I hate fighting Siegfried.
It's also because they basically nerfed Nightmare too, that I use Siegfried.
I hate
Otherwise,
fighting Siegfried, and I hate fighting Rock.
Yeah.
Especially hate fighting Rock. Dude.
Although I will say that I got totally smoked when my first online match. I was using Siegfried against Yoshimitsu, and this guy just totally wasted me. Like
Did he use like Yoshimitsu's crazy like hurts himself moves and?
No, well, yeah, he was doing the
stances?
flying stuff, and I'm used to that, but like for some reason I just couldn't get the sidestep thing going because that's a really easy way to beat him.
Right.
And just I don't want to blame it on the lag, you know.
Yeah, because
but-
when he drops, he's super. Anyway, this is getting very
No, I'll
nerdy
say,
on Soul
I've also
Calibur.
been impressed by the caliber of players you'll meet online just randomly. A lot of really, really good people out there.
Well, that's what I thought. What I had heard, because I only bought the game last week, I had heard that like all the matches online are like, you know, people are using Vader, they're using the Apprentice or whatever, and they're cheap characters. But all the fights that I have, I don't think I've seen a single Vader. I haven't seen Apprentice.
in ranked matches, you can't use the apprentice.
Yeah. You can
Oh,
use
really?
it.
Yeah.
So-
Oh, okay. Well, that
I
makes
wonder
sense then.
why.
Well, is that stupid force throw thing?
Yeah.
Now that everybody can
Fuck
play,
off.
now that everybody's playing Force Unleashed with a demo, anybody here playing that? We can talk about that now. There's a demo out.
There's a
Was that-
demo out.
Demo
yesterday,
out.
right?
Came out yesterday.
Yeah.
A lot of throwing TIE fighters at people.
You know what's really funny is the complaint or the is it a complaint really? I mean, I think the thing that people said about the game when we were playing it for demo purposes was, well, is that all you get to do? But if that's all you get to do, it's kind of cool. I don't know. I mean,
Well, I reviewed it for
Yeah.
EGM, and I'm going to save my comments when the issue comes out.
All right.
When the review
All right.
hits.
that's fair. I thought it was fun.
Can you answer this though? In the original early teaser trailer,
Yeah.
he's standing there and he pulls a Star Destroyer out of the sky.
You do that.
You do that?
Not as cool as you might think.
Really?
Yeah,
Crestfallen look on his eyes.
I also reviewed it for EGM, and I will agree with Skip.
Yeah.
So force pulling a Star Destroyer goes in the not cool.
How about
Column.
this?
Who would have thought?
It should be. It should be. But
It makes you think that it is kind of, but
When you tell someone about it, it sounds cool.
yeah.
Better than Clone Wars?
The movie.
Yeah.
I haven't
I
seen
would
it. I'm
hope-
not going to see it.
Greg Ford saw Clone Wars.
Got an F in Entertainment Weekly.
Oh my God, dude! The backlash on Clone Wars is only beginning. It's just
And Onion AV Club described the scenes as levels, which I thought was kind of
Oh, no,
classic.
I read 6 different reviews that all likened it to a video game. All
Yeah?
of them. In fact, two of them were like, it's like watching somebody else play a bad video game.
Oh boy.
wow.
not even like a current generation one. I mean, obviously I haven't gone and seen the movie, but just watching the trailers and stuff, I'm like, wow, the animation is terrible. It's like, how do you make it? How do you?
The Washington Post likened it to something you would see on the side of a van and a multiple choice test in a history class you failed.
Ouch.
Jeez.
Wow.
Pretty harsh.
You play anything else? Anybody?
I've played several games.
All right, so you play. Do your several games, then we'll go on.
Well,
from
remember
there.
last week when I loved Castlevania Order of Ecclesia? remember that?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
You weren't here.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Now I hate it.
So you didn't listen to the show, Gar?
You didn't listen to it.
I wasn't on it. Of
You
course
hate it
not.
now?
Now I hate it.
You
Why?
were full.
What?
You were
I-
full
You
of,
sold us on,
yeah.
I've been
Pre-ordered it after that.
I might love it again, but I've been stuck for 5 days, and nobody can help me. What? Like, nobody Konami can help me. Like, I'm trying to get the real ending. Like, the real ending also involves, like, going to Castlevania and seeing, like, the last third of the game, and I can't figure it out for the life of me, and I've been through every level, like, a million times and done everything, and hit every
You turn it
wall.
upside
5
down,
days?
Dude,
You turn it upside down.
I can't figure it out. I've played every Castlevania ever. for
Yeah, if anyone knows
years.
Castlevania's quirks, it's you.
But it's hard. As I said, it's really, really hard, and it continues to be really hard. And the puzzles are really hard, and it's really hard.
Oh no.
Did you equip the sunglasses? That didn't work.
Didn't do anything?
Well, they even said, like, one of the really hard puzzles near the end of the game, you have to equip these certain glyphs and do this certain thing in this certain place, and if you do it wrong, you die. And you can't save between fighting a boss and doing that. So that happened to me 3 times.
Oh.
Did you like
But-
the boss?
Yeah, the boss is pretty good. But, yeah, it's
that's a good-
really hard, and I'm stuck. So I'll let you know if I change my tune on
Skip
that one
looks
again.
genuinely distressed now.
I mean,
I'm skeptical.
it's... We will see.
I'm skeptical.
The other games I've been playing are Infinite Undiscovery
Oh, yeah.
from Tri-Ace. No one else is reviewing that here, are they?
No.
No, I'm glad I'm not after I saw it.
No. I mean, like, the thing you saw was not necessarily indicative of the whole game. So I'm a big Tri-Ace fan.
Did you run away? And was it running away?
Yeah, you got to run away.
You had to run away.
Yeah, you have to run
So
away.
he's like, it's like quick interjection before he tells his story is he's fighting against this dragon and you're supposed to run away, but like the dragon is launching fireballs at him or fire breath. What was it? Was it fireballs or fire breath or something?
Giant rendered fireballs.
And the rendered fireballs are looking so pasted into the environment that all I could think of was like Mad Dog McCree.
Yeah.
Seriously,
Yeah.
all I could think
You
of was
said,
Mad Dog
are you
McCree.
playing Sewer Shark? No, I'm playing. No, actually, overall the graphics are pretty good. I would say they're among the best graphics from a Japanese developer for Xbox 360.
From 10 years ago.
No, I mean, like,
Wow.
I'd say it's on par, more or less, with Lost Odyssey. Overall, it isn't quite as good, but the highs are higher and the lows are lower than Lost Odyssey. Visually, I'm only saying. I'm not that far, but I'm enjoying it. I do have some issues. There's a weird interface, like the whole interface of the game. Like, you have to press the R trigger to draw your sword because it's like kind of an action RPG combat. However, when your sword's out, if you hit an item, it destroys the item. If you hit a treasure chest, you destroy the treasure chest. So you have to sheath your sword and then press A to open a treasure chest to pick up an item. And in combat, you'll find yourself destroying lots of items, which is obnoxious. Like,
Yeah,
I wanted that
that
herb.
is
I
pretty
wanted that
stupid.
herb, and now someone hit it and it's dead. So that's obnoxious. And like to use your other party members, you have to like press a litany of like right bumper, X, A, and then you switch to like this girl. Then you like can use her arrow. Like I wish it was a little easier to,
and you know what?
use your party members.
In contrast to Star Ocean, the PSP, where you press a button over with the D-pad, press the button, and you're on the next character.
But really, the whole time I'm playing this game is like, I wish I didn't have to do all this to use my party members. I wish I had co-op buddies playing through this action RPG with me. It screams for co-op.
Really?
Like, cries out into the night, why? Please give me co-op.
Why? Please give me co-op.
Other things to say about it. So far, the story is kind of likable. It's like people think you're this hero, you're not this hero, so you're just kind of it's kind of funny. But however, there aren't enough voices in the game. There's tons of cutscenes, and like 20% of them are voice. Other times, silent. It's like can you afford some more voice actors, people? I don't know.
Is that necessarily a bad thing, though?
I think people in this age expect more voice events in their games, especially if it's like a real cutscene where like it really looks like there should be voiceovers and there are no voiceovers in the game.
That is probably a baseline expectation.
Also, there are camera problems. Like, you're very manual camera. You're constantly having to recenter the camera. But even with all these problems, I am really enjoying the combat, and it's fun. The world is kind of interesting.
Are you infinitely undiscovering things, though?
It's a little early to tell. However,
I am just undiscovering things a lot.
There have been times in this game where I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, Vesperia, because actually Tales of Vesperia, which is coming out around the same time, I've already reviewed, and I said some things about those graphics in that game, but I do think that game overall, it's a much more traditional role-playing game, but I like its combat better than Infinite Undiscoveries. So
you like Infinite, so obviously...
Well, but I like Infinite Undiscoveries graphics better than Vesperia's, and so far the story, I kind of like Infinite Undiscovery a little bit better, but if you have to only buy one JRPG for Xbox 360 in September, Vesperia still has the edge.
What a weird freaking place we are at in August of 2008, where we're like, if you want to buy just one Japanese RPG for Xbox 360.
But I think the problem facing Infinite Undiscovery is because it is a little more Western and it's coming out against Fable. I have to wonder if Fable 2 might be a better game than this. We'll see. So, I don't know. I'm still playing it.
Okay.
The other big game I started was Silent Hill Homecoming. It's kind of depressing because all the events I've been to, I've played the first two areas and I'm still kind of in those areas now.
Right.
And it hasn't changed much since then. I do like the combat. I feel that it's the best combat Silent Hill's ever had.
And you're a Silent Hill fan, so
Huge Silent Hill fan. I still can't shake the fact that this is like proficient mimicry in much the same way that Silent Hill 0, which you played, it's like a really great cover version of Silent Hill. Well, this is also kind of a really great cover version of Silent Hill.
Well, that's to be expected given that it's swap in developers. I mean, you're bringing it over to Western developer.
Right.
So it is sort of as done as an homage, right?
It is, and I feel like they have improved the combat, and the soundtrack is phenomenal. So I'll play more, and the bosses. What little I've seen of the bosses, it seems pretty cool, and more than you'd expect from the previous games.
I'm doing the review as well. I'm going to be playing it, and I played it a little bit at E3. My big problem with it was though that the combat felt a little clunky. Like they explained that
they try to do a lot more.
Yeah, because the character himself is like
he's
a soldier.
An army guy.
Yeah, so he can. They're like, okay, this guy can do rolls and stuff like this. He can do a lot more stuff.
Right.
But it still felt so.
But it doesn't feel as clunky. I mean, have you played Silent Hill combat?
Yes. No, I mean it's
like Silent Hill combat is you like clumsily swinging a stick at nothing while something walks behind you.
It definitely feels better, but it's still just kind of like. And I don't know.
Yeah, but then the puzzles are very classic Silent Hill. I was like, maybe you could have done something besides make me go find 5 pieces of this thing and put them together to show me where I need to go. But
does it have zodiac signs?
I'm sure it does.
Okay, that right there seals the deal, man. Got to have zodiac signs. What else?
But that's it. But also the graphics, like the transition scenes, are really impressive, as we've seen before. Like when the world, when it changes to the dark world, it looks awesome.
Do you mean by graphics? You mean like how proficient they are, or does it have like a good art style to it?
It actually has a good art style, and when the filter, it doesn't have filters until you get to the dark world. And when it switches from real world to dark world, instead of a cutscene, it's actually happening all around you with like these animated textures.
Okay, now that's cool.
Yeah, it looks very cool. First time you see it, you've never seen anything like that before in a game.
That's pretty slick.
So yeah, the jury's still out on whether or not it really is a real Silent Hill game. Because Silent Hill 2 and 3 were so good. People want a game that good again. Yeah.
And then The Room, not so much, huh? I didn't play The Room.
The Room had some interesting ideas, but the Silent Hill parts, there was a lot of backtracking. You went to every level twice. That was kind of annoying.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, there's definitely some interesting ideas in Too Human, along with the jury still being out. We have one of the senior jurors here, senior juror Giancarlo.
Yes.
So if you stick around, when we come back, we will dive into the maelstrom of Too Human. right, we're back. We're going to get into it. We're ready. Well, I don't know if you could actually be ready because Too Human finally released on the Xbox 360.
People waiting 10 years. How can you not be ready?
Not on any of the other number of consoles it was ever considered to be developed for. And who knows what variation of the storyline it finally came out in. Because wasn't Too Human originally supposed to be like more, I don't know.
It's a sports game, I think.
It was a sports game,
No,
right.
If you go and
Basketball.
watch the live gameplay videos of the PS1 version, the
Yes.
story has changed since then.
Yeah, definitely has
But
changed.
the overall framework, the symbolic framework hasn't changed.
And neither has the controversy because its release has spawned all kinds of stuff, which is why we have GC here, who by the way, after all of our joking, I mean, we should probably be sincere for a minute, that GC is by no means a newcomer to this.
GC is old school.
Yeah,
He's not a noob.
He is not a noob
Because you were
in the least.
you were at GameSpot years ago.
I was at GameSpot in 2000.
Yeah.
and
Hi.
I've been working
Yeah.
since then.
Hi,
so,
hi, internet message board noobs.
Yeah.
Your
Maybe
popularity
it's my own
dwarfs
fault
everyone
because
else.
my name's not out there. So.
Anyway, so you played it, you reviewed it.
Yeah.
Give us your to just kick this thing off here. Give us your overview of why it didn't click with you.
So my biggest complaint with this game is that it tries to do a lot of things. To its credit, it does try to do a lot of these kind of things that it wants to bring together, like sort of these action elements you typically find in something like a Devil May. It's not trying to copy Devil May Cry, but it's trying to bring like kind of like the cool, I'm juggling a guy in the air kind of action combat. And it also wants to bring forth like these RPG elements that you normally find in a game like Diablo with like the skill trees and the loot. The big thing is the loot, obviously. So where it didn't click for me was a combination of these things not working together well. And the biggest one for me was the loot. In a game like this, and I love loot games. Like I love Diablo to death. Like I play those games. The original Diablo, I was playing that instead of studying for finals in high school.
Good call. Good call.
But for me, the pacing with the loot in this game is just totally off. It just feels totally off.
Off which way? Like too much?
It's not just too much loot. Like having too much loot is not a problem. What the problem is where you have so much good loot that when you get something that's supposed to be special, does not feel like it's special.
So
I'm siding with GC on this.
Okay.
As my main complaint so far, I'm only past. I think I'm level 16 or 17 now, and maybe it's just because I didn't play Diablo and I didn't play much like the loot games like that. My first experience with RPG loot was WoW. So when I was like level 12 in Too Human and I got like 3 orange pieces, I'm like, oh my god, orange! I'll never see that in WoW ever.
Right.
And then I realized that in 2 more levels, I'm gonna get something new.
Well,
that's
that's the thing. So you get this loot, and you're like, oh sweet, cool. Like I'm a badass now. I can use this, for the rest of the game. I'm awesome. And then like half an hour to an hour later, you have something better. And in some cases, like you'll pick up a blueprint for like a special whatever.
Right.
And then 5 minutes later, another blueprint will come along that's even better. And it's just like, none of this makes any of it feel special to me. Like,
which is where WoW nails it. So it's interesting because now we're gonna like kick off this thing getting deep into loot theory, but WoW nails it because at least when you're really into it and you get into the higher levels, there are pieces of armor or weapons that you will carry for months.
But you're talking about a 20-hour game versus a
Right.
1,000-hour
And
game.
for some people, not even a 20-hour game. I mean, it's
Right.
trying to cram hundreds of hours worth of rewards into a really tight space of time. And I
Right.
think a lot of it is to do with your alignment and who it is that you're trying to. And I think early on you're just sort of experimenting a lot. I mean, my guy's like a level 12 or 14 or something like now, and he looks a bit like a Christmas tree because he's got like green bits and red bits. I mean, and I think the aesthetics have some, but I've not really been paying attention to what's supposed to be special yet. So I've just been looking for like armor with the highest rating and the best, like the guns I'm only really using when I'm supposed. What character class were you? I mean, you played a bunch,
I
right?
played a bunch of them. I mean, my first one was the Defender, and like the reason why I even selected him to begin with is because at the select screen you see all the character classes in like super cool stuff, except for maybe the Berserker who looks like a retard.
But he's my favorite.
But
Surprise.
I mean, like so. And like I'm like, okay, I'm gonna be really shallow about this and pick the Defender
Because he looks like a guy in like cool armor, right?
Like, yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
he
I
has
love
really
loot.
cool
I
armor.
want cool loot that looks like that. That's why part of the reason why I'm playing this game. That's why part of the reason why I'm reviewing it is because I like loot games. And so, here I am, and like, I'm going through the game and I just, there's some stuff that I come across that's, it's kind of cool, but some of it looks like super goofy and like the loot thing just totally, almost completely fell apart for me. I mean, by the end of the game, I was just using loot. Okay, like, will this help me get through this game faster? Because I'm tired of fighting the same enemies. I'm tired of basically, going through the same level, albeit just, a different dress, and all that kind of stuff. And, and the thing that bugs me the most is that this game, gets kind of touted for being innovative or whatever. And I think in certain respects with the right analog stick, I think the right analog stick thing actually works to a certain extent. Because it's a translation of what Diablo did. It's a translation of what makes it easy for people to get into the game. Mm-hmm. But trying to integrate these typical action game kind of stylings with that control scheme just never works. It hasn't worked. It didn't work for Rise to Honor. It didn't work for any other game that's used that kind of control scheme before. I mean, I don't know. It didn't impress me. It was very functional. I mean, it was functional for just fighting guys, just going toe to toe with them and fighting them.
It feels automatic. Did you want it to not feel automatic? You wanted it to feel like you were choosing what you're doing and your inputs, you're seeing what happened on screen.
Well, that was kind of my issue. It's like it wants to be both. Like it wants to be this juggling, cool, do 8,000 combo meter game, where it's like at the same time you're just skirting around the environment where the guy is just doing all the work and you're just pressing this single direction.
When I was playing it, I felt like if it didn't auto move me to the next target, would it be more fun that I had to move over there and press a button? Not really. I don't know. It's kind of it's a weird balance.
Once you get into those combos where you get the achievement for 100 in the it drops you in these arenas every now and then.
Right. Mm-hmm. Those are optional.
And it's if
you find
them and you go in and it'll throw a challenge at you, and one of them is you've got 40 seconds to kill everything and then you can get the loot out of the room. Mm-hmm. And one of the early ones of those is the first opportunity you have to realistically get the 100 kill combo achievement.
Right.
That's sort of how it leads you by the hand into this is how you need to be approaching the melee combat. It's not about just sort of swiping your sword at thing. It's like chaining stuff together and making sure that you're not doing any sort of wasted strokes between things. So it's being more aware of the environment. But I think part of the problem is that because you don't have any control over the camera, you're kind of held back a little bit. But a lot of it is like Diablo, and it gets kind of mindless. Right. And almost you get into the rhythm of the game, and it actually kind of gets a little jarring when it throws in the guys that glow orange and explode, because you're like, but I just want to go in there with this. It doesn't matter which character class you are. Once you get up above level 10 and you got a level 40 sword, and you're just fuck it, and you just wade into the middle of everything and try and combo the crap out of stuff. And you only use the guns when you have to. I think that's one of the problems with the character classes is that they're not really distinct enough, because as soon as when you're actually going in and manipulating stuff there's the skill tree and the alignment tree. Once you go back to the very Mass Effect hub world.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a lot of Mass Effect about this, because the bad guys look like the Geth. And it's you go back and you pick your alignment, and I'm a cybernetic champion with a big sword and really good armor. Just like
in real life.
I go home and my wife says that cybernetic champion
with a big sword.
With a big sword, honey. But I find that the game, regardless of all of the what it's trying to be in terms of the options that it gives you, what it's really forcing you down the path of is being close quarters melee combat superhero. Because I was I wish I'd have been a berserker, and I went and I started another character which was a berserker. And there wasn't, beyond level 10 again, there was no discernible difference between what my champion was doing.
That's the problem, is that all the enemies attack the same way. Every single class can approach a battle where it's okay, I'm going to use guns first, and then once they get close, I'm going to use the,
Yep.
That's exactly what I do as human champion. Guns to pick off anything that's coming at me. And if
you take the shields down, you get one of the beam pistols or whatever, and you can wear down the shields really quick, and then you just wade in there and hit stuff.
Yeah, and it's fine. For the first level, I'm okay, this is good. I like this, But then you get to level 2, and it's oh wait, I just did this in level 1. It's the same thing where there's this shielded guy at the end. I'm using my guns to take down his shield, and then I attack him, and it just goes on the same formula throughout the whole game.
Really? So I'm about, what I'm assuming is about a third of the way through. So I'm right near the end of the ice forest. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of the big hammer dudes with the silly names.
Well, yeah.
That you can, and they have the sort of quick time event stuff where you can jump on top of them, and if you balance right. But it never explains that you have to balance. You have to sort of work it out.
Yeah,
Right.
I figured
And
that
then
out
you
for
can
myself.
stick your sword through his head. Are there any other things in the game you can do that to? Because all
No,
the other
it's-
big stuff I found, you can't do that to.
No, as far as I know, that's the only thing, and it's so it feels out of place to me. It's like, why? Like, this is supposed to be one of the enemies where you actually are supposed to use some strategy against, but if you knock off the armor off his head, you just walk behind him and
Yep.
take him out in one shot.
Because I must have wasted about 20 minutes fighting Grendel, thinking I could do the same thing to him.
Right.
Really? Yeah.
And then trying to work out what the strategy it was trying to hint at. Because like you're in this huge environment and there's fire coming out of the walls and the floors, and I'm like, oh, maybe I need to lure him into that, and that didn't work either.
Well,
I mean, it's
that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted out of that boss battle. I'm like, okay, like I need to lure him over to these flames. Okay, that's not really doing anything.
Overthinking the game.
So instead, I'm just going to walk backwards for 5 minutes and shoot.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I did. That's exactly
Like,
what I did.
why?
If you circle a little bit, that helps.
Well, yeah, and there indeed was some circle strafing involved.
oh, and you have to do the roll to get the little bug things off.
Right.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. And that's another thing. Those little bug guys, if you're just walking backwards
don't hit
and
you.
shooting, you
They-
kill
they
all
don't,
of them.
Yeah, they don't hit you.
Really?
Like, it's just, I don't know. I mean,
I thought I liked it. Now I'm talking about it. It sounds like I don't.
Well, do you know
I've
what?
been, I've been
if you're enjoying it, have fun with it.
I've been enjoying it so far.
Because I was
mean,
going to say, I notoriously was hard on it after actually sitting down and playing with it a couple of months ago when we had a build, and now that I'm sitting down with the retail, I'm actually having fun with the damn game.
How far are you?
I just beat Grendel and I'm at the overworld, so
I'm surprised you're having fun single player because, like, I think the word I've always used to describe this game is mundane, and like mundane things are fun with more people.
agreed. I think part of it. So there's a part that we're going to talk about in a minute that GC brought up while we were in the break. But one of the first things that came to mind for me is that I'm not sold on the control scheme at all. I think it's really, I think it's just unorthodox to its own detriment.
Would you have rather had direct controls, like
Yeah.
combo?
Absolutely.
4 different attack buttons.
Absolutely,
combos,
without a doubt,
aiming.
unquestionably, absolutely would have enjoyed having that, because it would have been, because exactly like what GC said, it's like the game implies through the way that you fight, through the way the camera is managed, through the way that you're playing the game, that you're going to wade in there and fight against these guys, and that's the way you would wade in there and fight at those games. I mean, it almost says Dynasty Warrior like.
Right,
in that
exactly.
regard.
If you did that, it would be Dynasty Warriors, and we all hate
but
that.
that's not true.
It
though.
wouldn't exactly. It wouldn't just be Dynasty Warriors.
I mean,
with
you
robots.
can't. I mean, there's sort of like this
Gundam.
inherent thrill with fighting like 50 guys on screen at once or
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
when all you're doing, or all you need to do, is just I'm pressing right on the analog stick, and I just took out 3/4 of them. Like, I don't know. There's no challenge in it. Like,
So, one of the reasons I think that I'm enjoying it more is because having played through it as much as I did in the preview version, this time starting out from the beginning, I had a better clue of how to use the controls, and I'm finding myself much more using the 2-stick attacks, which are, what do they call those, the fierces or whatever?
There's fierce and there's finishing.
Ruiner. No.
yeah,
There's
The
also
ruiners
ruiners
are the right
ruiners.
button.
Okay.
So I find myself much more than just firing my guns at dudes and then closing in and meleeing them. I mean, I may start off like that, but once I get into a combat, if I get at range, then I might stop and do, the fierce attack, which launches a long range attack, which is pretty devastating. But now I know how to do that very quickly, and I can pull it off all the time. And I find myself using the finishers a whole lot, because you get in close and then you use both sticks in a direction and do finishers, and much more mixing up like the combos and the air combos. And as I'm doing that and making the combat more interactive, the game has become much more appealing to me. But I don't think that the default control system lends itself very much to that, because you don't have to do any of that. Like GC's saying, you could just sit there and shove the damn stick in a direction.
I think that's part
and it's
of.
over.
I think that's part of why there's a disconnect between the reviews and what a lot of people that have played it are saying, is because there's a lot of people that aren't that experienced playing this,
Right.
where you can wade into anything and achieve some results.
Yep.
And start to, I mean, there's the whole sort of, the feeling kind of a badass.
right. I appreciate. I will say, like, I appreciate the fact that this game is super easy to get into. Like, for people who are typically intimidated by other loot games like World of Warcraft or whatever, like, this game is super easy to get into, and I won't fault it for that at all. But when you're trying to take that mentality and apply it to all these different mechanics that aren't for that audience, Like, it just makes no sense.
I agree with that.
Jug air combos for
I feel that a big part of your disappointment is like the lack of enemy types because there's like 6.
Yeah, that's definitely a difficulty
and
there.
like the overall lack of variety in level design.
Yeah, like for me, like about halfway through the game, I started thinking of like Phantasy Star Online, and like
Which I love.
Which I love that game, but that was
And it also has 4 levels and 4 bosses.
But that was back what, in 2000?
It was 2000.
Why is a game in 2008 basically the same structure?
You know how long Two Humans been in development, right?
Well,
But you also know how hard it is to replicate PSO. I mean, Sega couldn't do it.
Nope.
PSU sucks. So.
Well, right, but I mean, part of what makes, and again, back to the loot thing, part of what makes Phantasy Star Online work, or what made it work, was the fact that the loot was dropped in such a way where it's like, man, I got to keep playing.
Yeah, when I saw a chainsaw, I was like, I have to have that, or a double saber, I have to have that.
Yeah, but for this game, the loot just comes so often that incentive to keep playing, which is the main incentive for a loot game like this, for me, isn't there.
So it doesn't work. It doesn't work for people who don't play on PC, but it's very much the affliction that struck Dungeon Siege, because Dungeon Siege had that same sort of issue where it did this thing
Too much all the time.
Yeah, too much all the time. It just doesn't play, it doesn't get you, because you're just getting all this different stuff, all this different stuff, all
I
this
think part
different
of the problem
stuff.
in Two Human is everything throws out some loot. I mean, like, what would happen in Diablo is that you would walk into a room. I mean, the interaction there was you were just clicking on stuff when you go back, but you would have to take down 20 guys who would be sort of around one bigger guy, and when you'd wiped all of them out, there would be something decent get dropped, and it would be the reward for having cleared that room.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Whereas this, it's like every guy you hit spits out some bounty, at least.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Every 10th guy or whatever throws out some health, and then there's always the rapid boots of indifference or whatever the fuck they're called.
The rapid boots of indifference.
It's gotten to the point where I don't care about the rune system at all. Like
Rune
plugging
system
in runes into the
rune
items that I'm
system
going to
took
get
me
rid of.
about 3 hours to work out how the fuck it worked, because I didn't read the manual.
And the charm system too.
Yeah, the charm system.
And it's like, it wasn't until it was actually a pair of boots that had 2 rune slots on them that I was like, oh, that's how it works.
I think that depth is admirable. I think it's that he put through all of to put all these different trees and systems and
wait a minute, I'm going to argue with you about that, because I like the loot and all that is really well thought out, but I don't think that the skill tree system is especially entertaining or well done.
You can fill out one full branch before half the game is over.
Exactly.
It seems like, I don't really remember specifically, but
and at least on the 2 characters I've looked at, it's the same damn skill tree, isn't it?
it's not. I mean, it
looks the same.
It based on a fundamental level, it is the same. Like, they're defensive, and like your spider buddy dude, like.
But he can do different things.
Well, yeah, but it's always like mines or shoot a laser. Like, I mean, that's kind of what it is.
So
across
it shoots a laser instead of a machine gun
or something.
Oh,
but
see,
then,
exactly.
But then there are slight bonuses within each of those skills. Like, in the machine gun, like if you're playing as the berserker, I think, then the machine gun actually has a chance to slow enemies down. But it's like, so what? Like, I'm when I'm playing this game, like, these little bonuses don't matter because the enemies don't attack.
Yeah, it's like there's so many little status effects that you don't really care about, because you're killing stuff so fast.
Do you get to the point later on where the guys with the freeze attacks that you can have a rune that will make you resistant to that?
I think so.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Or something that will make me resistant to fire. I mean, like right now,
something
there's
resistant to being knocked down by those fucking spider bosses.
If you play as the
worst enemy in the
defender,
game.
the defender doesn't get knocked down by projectiles or things like that.
Is that just the base ability?
That's just the base ability of the defender. So it's kind of nice, I guess. It makes the game less annoying because you're not getting knocked down.
Even the big troll guys, when they hit the ground with a hammer, you don't get knocked over by the shockwave.
I'm trying to remember if they get.
The trolls are fine, but it's the spider bosses, because even if you jump, the shockwave hits you. If you're not in range of the visual shockwave, it hits you.
Yeah,
it's like the rules aren't consistent.
There's a lot of
it drives me crazy because I hate knockdown bosses in every single game.
There's a lot of little sloppy stuff like that, like hit detection and things like that, or that just it's not a polished game to me. I mean,
okay, so before we go down that hallway, because that's a big thing we can talk about there when we're talking about character animation, and voice acting, and all that kind of stuff. The skill tree thing for me comes down to this: if you look at games that I'm going to compare to, which are like World of Warcraft, or the one that's recently, like maybe a year and a half ago, recently. on the PC scene was Titan Quest.
I think we also have to throw Mass Effect in there because it has an awful lot in common with Mass Effect.
Okay, Mass Effect as well. You're able to take a character that starts off as a class, but then depending on how you choose to develop it, really make it into a custom feeling character, like developing it down a certain specialty tree. And I don't get that sense of I'm specializing in this. I just get the feel of, oh, I'm adding some more stuff that instead of coming on my weapons or my armor is coming through a skill tree.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, I mean that's what I wanted from it too. I wanted a skill tree that's like going to really give me some cool abilities that are specific to my
Like
class.
I'm a defender, so like do I want to go down a shield specialty where I'm like, a super tank where I can throw this shield up and absolutely stand in front of everybody, or do I want to do, something where I draw more enemies to me, like tank in that sort of way?
Right, and you do. I mean, there are those skills for a defender, but the problem is they're not that, like, I don't know how to explain this, but like prominent within the game itself.
They don't differentiate enough.
Like you don't know, like you can activate them, with the exception of the little spider guy abilities, like I don't know. I personally didn't really see them.
I mean, I'm curious actually why you would want to do that, because your team is sort of useless.
Yeah.
You can't tank for your team because
there are
essentially scripted points where guys die,
right.
because you get to a point where there is a scripted point that says you have only this many people left, and more often than not, when you get on an elevator, you leave them all behind.
Right. I'm sorry. It's a hypothetical example of how you might customize a character.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues with the character classes is that aside from the basic things that they are able to do, like the defender doesn't get pushed over, they are, to a degree, sort of an aesthetic.
But like the bioengineer can heal. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I mean,
but he can't heal. He can't heal the NPCs because the NPCs are just drag-alongs.
Right,
they're just part of the level art.
Right, exactly, because it is you against the world, really.
Yeah.
And every now and then they'll make a shot that in one of the 3,000 times you have to watch that fucking Odin Angel animation when you die, might take down a guy who you were shooting at. In fact, that's probably my biggest bugbear of the whole thing, is that every time you die, it's 30 seconds while you have to watch that thing and you can't skip it.
Beautiful. It's not a bad death penalty.
With the
like,
Einharjar.
But why is it even there?
It's an Einharjar. It's a part of the Norse mythology.
But do I have to watch it every time?
It's a what?
I don't know how to spell it. In Valkyrie Profile, when she's like, "Come to me, my loyal Einharjar," that's one of those things, whatever that is.
I think they just call them Valkyries in the game.
Yeah, I think they just call them Valkyries, pretty much.
It has a name.
Okay.
But back on this the story aspect, which we haven't talked on at all.
Oh God.
I was having dinner with Wired's Chris Kohler, who kicked off the whole anti-2-human thing with his preview/review.
Okay.
And his big complaint was at the end of the game, you feel like you're just getting started, and like you want to be left. You want to be left with these hooks that like a big awesome cliffhanger hook thing that makes you want to come back. But he felt like it just begun. I haven't finished the game, so
yeah. I mean, I felt like the ending was basically just forced down my throat because someone thought that okay, we need to do a trilogy, and like there's no real development with like the characters involved at the end. Like you're just kind of like okay.
Well, there's only 4 areas that you go to, right?
Yeah.
There's the castle, there's the ice forest, there's the serpent thing, and then Heimdall's or whatever.
Hell, but he said he felt in no way that he'd seen a third of the story. Like he felt that he'd seen like 10% of the story.
Well, that's the thing, and this is another just one of my biggest complaints is that there's this really really cool world. Like they did a really good job of kind of doing this cyber Norse mythology thing, and I think it can work. But it's like instead of like, and I said this in the video review, instead of just like building up the world and explaining what's going on, they just like went right for the okay, you know who these characters are kind of thing already, so we're gonna just jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas like anything that's popular that's a trilogy, like the first movie, the first book, whatever, sets up the world.
Right.
Like,
has to lay down the basis of the canon.
So you felt it never really established who these characters are, what their motivations are.
They mentioned they're like, okay, these are the Aesir, they protect the humans.
That chick back at the hometown, I know she wants to get in Baldur's pants.
Freya.
She is hot for Baldur big time.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
But it's like the stuff with like Baldur's wife being killed. Like you don't realize, like you don't really care who Baldur's wife is. Like it's this big revenge motivation for him, but you're like, okay, I don't know, I haven't seen his
So
wife.
I think that they were trying to be very subtle with that, right? They were trying to like slowly reveal that Baldur had been, incapacitated for a while, maybe lost some of his memory.
But even that, it's not even slowly revealed. Like if you watch the opening cinematics, like you kind of already like know
Yeah,
what's
it's true.
going on a little bit or
It's
what
true.
has happened. But going back to like the Norse mythology thing and the whole two human like sort of cybernetic versus human people thing, the fact that the story boils down to such a generic and like overused like plot and climax was so disappointing to me. I was looking forward to Two Human. Like I was one of the few people who I played the preview builds and I thought, wow, this can really work. This is a cool concept. I like the fact that it's easy to get into.
Yeah.
And, I was like, okay, cool. Like they're on the right track here. But then I played the rest of the game. And this is why we do the reviews. I played the rest of the game and I just didn't enjoy it that much. I was really disappointed by just how things just fall apart. Like after that first level, everything that I thought that this game was going to be to a certain extent was just like I'm just like, wow, what happened here? There's none of the like addiction that I was expecting with the loot, like in terms of the combat. Really disappointed, and all this.
One of the things that
stuff.
was telling for me is you get to that first overworld, and I'm at that spot again, and I just want to get on to the next level because all those parts that could have helped string it together, the narrative pieces and the environment and the world and all that kind of thing, that building your character, even making the decision between human and cybernetic, just don't have any impact for me. As a matter of fact, if that's the big thing, if the whole catch originally was as the name implies, too human, was are you too human to be the hero? Where is your humanity at? Right? Wasn't that originally like the crux of the play? And that part doesn't come across to me at all. I mean, I don't ever get this feeling of, oh, I'm making a trade-off between my humanity.
See, that might not be coming to play until like the second or third game.
Oh, okay. Well, then maybe they shouldn't have called this one Too Human.
What I do like
Maybe it could have been
the-
mostly human.
I thought they did a good job of slowly introducing the whole. In fact, it reminded me of Battlestar Galactica in a lot of ways, in the whole notion that the Azir are affecting the world so that it looks the way they want it to, as opposed to what it really looks like. And the first sort of hint of that you get is when Heimdall's up in his office, and he switches the world off, basically.
I thought that was really cool.
I thought that was really interesting. Like,
That was cool.
Okay, I kind of get it now. And then what I also really enjoyed was the whole internet metaphor
Of the Norns?
the Norns and the fact that the internet is like
cyberspace.
Cyberspace is this entirely metaphorical thing that he tunes into, and you're walking through and everything that's not real is really idyllic, and everything that is real is really nasty and grungy. And I think they could have played that up much more.
That's what I was looking for.
They could have played that up a lot more.
That would have been awesome if they had played up like basically this whole world is controlled by this internet or whatever. I mean, I still don't really know what was going on, but if they played up that element more in terms of the story and setting up the world, like I think it would have been far more interesting. And they just kind of dropped the ball near the end, and they use it as a tool for advancing what ends up being like a really super generic like plot point. So
what's up with the internet firestorm over this game?
Well, I think a lot of part of it, I don't think it was particularly well positioned. I don't think anyone, no one ever from me. I mean, Dennis was out there being very defensive, but I think Microsoft never really said, "Here's what Too Human is." I think we kind of went from 0 to 60 on a lot of the information about the game.
So just sort of of course the game's been out there a long time. Everybody knows what Too Human's about. It's been under development forever.
I don't think anyone did. And when you see responses from people that aren't in the games press or aren't sort of connected to the games industry anyway, you go out and talk to people who just have an Xbox 360 and are kind of interested in a game that's coming out in August, and they put it in and they're like, well, I played the demo and it was kind of interesting, and I bought the game and I think it's kind of cool. I don't get what all the fuss is about. And I think there's a lot of people that are like, saw a lot of the shitstorm and were like, am I like not cool for liking this? What the hell's up here?
Yeah.
You asked that question. You asked that question yourself, didn't you?
And it was like, because I hadn't really been that connected. I mean, I played that one early build a while ago, and because I sent you a note after I read your review because I thought you actually got reasons why you didn't like it across really well.
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of stuff out there where people were clearly. Some of it read like they decided that they weren't going to like it beforehand.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of people decided they didn't like Dennis Dyack.
Or they didn't. Yeah, they didn't like the baggage that came along with the game, and the product was tarred with something that it wasn't. It was like hating on Star Wars because you don't like George Lucas. I mean, it's probably a bad example, but it's kind of like that. You
I think that's actually a good example.
That you can't, even if it has redeeming qualities, you can't see them just because you think the entire thing is just utterly bullshit. And I think this game suffered from that. more than anything else I can remember in recent years. It was like there was a ton of just like, no, forget it, whatever, don't care. But I think along the way it could have been helped either with the way that it was marketed or the way it was positioned, because the game that it actually isn't really the game that's been represented for the last couple of years.
Well, what I find really interesting is the demo was downloaded over 1 million times, and if whatever percentage of those people go to buy it, then this game could be a success. Like whatever gauges a success these days.
It's guaranteed to sell a couple 100,000 units
right.
at least.
And
that's not a success for them.
Well, but it could be. Who knows? Who knows what a success is to them and to Microsoft and to Silicon Knights? But for the hardcore community, people who've been privy to Dennis Diak's appearances on our show,
right.
his message board threads, his crazy interviews, whatever. At the end of the day, he rose the profile of his game, either for ill or for good. But his name and this game's name was everywhere these last 2 weeks. You couldn't avoid it. You couldn't escape it. Whether or not you were posting because you hated it without ever playing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think ultimately, his PR plan might have worked.
So that sells
in a weird way.
Sells more copies in Walmart.
Maybe.
Mom, that's that 2 human game.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think
Walmart kids aren't
no,
going to be reading
I think that's
boards.
exactly what won't happen.
Yeah.
Because the people that are going, there's the people that I was talking about that just have a 360 and played the demo.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They may have heard secondhand that there's a bunch of fuss about it, but they're not privy to this sort of
They also
introverted bullshit that goes on.
Right.
Yeah.
The person who's listening to this podcast, the person who goes to our message board,
True.
They may be more likely to check this game out, maybe rent it, not buy it, but to see what all the hoopla is all about.
I want to ask John. You said that there was a big divergence between the game that we'd been promised over the last 2 years and the game that they shipped. What are the key points there? A couple of key points.
I think the promise was bigger and more epic and more. I think that Two Human and Mass Effect were announced on the same day.
Mm-hmm.
You remember? It was back at, I don't know, it was an E3 or a GDC or something.
It was at a GDC
and it was
3 years ago?
And it was like, we are launching 2 trilogies. They're both role-playing games. They're exclusive to Xbox 360. It's Silicon Knights and BioWare. And it was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And when you look at the way that Mass Effect was handled versus the way that this was handled, they're very, very... The control over the way that they were things were communicated about them, it was completely different. And when you look at them objectively, they do have a lot in common in terms of their structure, the hub world, the fact that for whatever people think Mass Effect is, it's a shooter with leveling up.
You can almost copy and paste the marketing plan for both of the games, but we didn't see that. Are there 2 human TV ads yet?
I've not seen anything.
I've not seen one.
But I think there was an expectation from 2 Human that ended up being very different and it got really out of control in terms of what people were expecting from it. And this is the double-edged sword of allowing Dennis to go out and defend it personally, as opposed to...
And what part does the E307 demo have to play in that? Mass Effect never had a demo like that.
No, the Mass Effect demo, the closest we ever got at that stage was in a room that you had to be invited to, where the producer was playing it and you could watch him play it.
Right. And in fact, I remember that same E3 on this podcast, you guys came back, you and Luke were like, you can visit 5,000 planets. I was like, no, you fucking can't. So you got blown like pie in the sky, whereas meanwhile 2 Human was getting destroyed.
It was down on the floor because the gameplay was more visceral.
Right.
But the demo didn't. And at that point, the 2 products got pulled further and further and further apart in terms of people's perceptions of them. And I think what we ended up with was Mass Effect was probably, in retrospect, overrated. And 2 Human, I think, because it came out so much later, the expectations were just getting more and more and more and more. And then you kept having
I'm going to disagree with you on Mass Effect being overrated.
I got 97s and stuff.
I think Mass Effect was... I really enjoyed the core part of Mass Effect. I thought the core line, not the extra stuff, the add-on go to the planets were very rote. They were very repetitive.
Do you think almost a year out now, does Mass Effect stand for you as this landmark triumph? Really?
Yeah,
really,
it does. I think it really does. I think that there's some places that they have room for improvement, but you can go back and knock the dialogue system and say that yes, it's just a reinterpretation of choosing what people say. However, what it did was it moved the bar forward. It didn't maybe move the bar forward as much as we'd hoped it would, but it does move the bar forward in regard of having a really interactive experience where you're involved with the characters. When those characters are having conversations, you really are spending more of your time looking at them on the screen than reading wiping crap off of the screen. And that, like, now we're going to draw that comparison. Let's draw that comparison because you said they're being compared apples to apples. Well, if you're looking at the cutscenes and the voice acting and interactions in Too Human, I don't think they stand up very well to Mass Effect.
But they're not embarrassing.
They're not embarrassing, but I don't think they stand up very well. I think there's a difference between embarrassing yourself and just not comparing
but I think
well.
in the pantheon of action RPG, in RPG cutscenes, in any game cutscenes, I mean, there's a huge variance. Like when I'm like Infinite Undiscovery, Metal Gear Solid 4, Too Human, somewhere in between those.
But again, Too Human, with the statement we were just making was Too Human and Mass Effect announced at the same time, both held out there as these big, epic, exclusive 360 games that you're going to be excited for, and at that time, actually, both Unreal Engine 3, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
but I think Mass Effect was managed really tightly.
It was managed
and at
well.
no point did I don't think expectations got a little out of hand early on, but they were reined in, and it was very controlled as to.
But it delivered very well.
Right, and in terms of like what you got promised versus what you got, and
it delivered on what was promised.
Yeah, Mass Effect didn't cut a feature set.
No,
you know, 4-player to 2-player in Too Human is a big compromise, and Dennis has to admit that.
And it's not the only thing that got compromised. It's clearly a shorter, smaller game than it was originally intended to be. And the difference with Too Human is that it wasn't managed, and as time progressed and the product changed, it was just sort of getting out of hand, and it got more and more emotional. And there was like people that were
it did get emotional,
that were
personal, and people that were privy to the process, who are usually the people that are going to buy it first and go and evangelize it to their friends that are going to go buy it at Walmart. That was where it all fell apart. It was like the whole system on a game like this, which is fundamentally a really hardcore game. This is one of the times where you can't afford to do that, and Microsoft knows better.
The grassroots effort got compromised.
Microsoft needed to rein this shit in like a year ago, and to all intents and purposes, they just said, "You know what, dude, you're on your own. Go have at it. If that's what you want to do, it's all yours."
And he did.
And he did. And yeah, he got some attention for it, but it was all the wrong kind of attention. And people that would like, I've been reading like Twitters and Facebook updates and blogs, and the stuff that people are criticizing about Too Human, talking about how the opening cutscene is cheesy, and like these same people will stand up and say that the shittiest of scripted Japanese bullshit is awesome. And they're criticizing Too Human for the exact same thing, and like things that like when you put them next to each other, it would be like you're saying that's good, and this is the one that you're choosing to point fingers at and say is cheesy and hilarious.
Right. I mean, like the same people who are praising Tales of Vesperia, when they play it, I'm like, compare this to Too Human. Compare what's being said, what these characters are doing.
Yeah.
Well, that was the funny thing about Too Human, that opening cinematic, the one where you don't even actually know if it's there unless you just let the console run, where he goes into the bar.
Yeah.
That's a good cutscene. To me, like it's animated well. Like there's good action in it, all this other stuff, and then
it also helps to give you the world a little more, because like there's not very often where you get to actually go in this world and see what the world is like.
It's a hell of a lot better than that round table dinner scene after the first.
Well, right.
Thor breaks the table.
It's the one time where you're like saying, okay, there's a discrepancy here between the Aesir and the humans. The humans are living some miserable existence. They don't trust the Aesir. Like this cool setup for this stuff, and it's a good cutscene, lots of action, lots of like setup, all that good business. But then the problem was that every cutscene after that was just paled in comparison. Like in terms of the way they're animated, like the frame rate, like what was going on in them, the voice acting, whatever.
I think they should have outsourced their cutscenes. I think that's the problem ultimately.
Well, what? That you think they should have That's the
how many games?
That's a very odd.
How many games are you playing with awesome cutscenes where those cutscenes weren't made by the people making the game? A lot of them. Right.
I just thought that was a very random, like all of a sudden out of nowhere.
I think it would have been.
There was some stuff where I just think the way that they were. Yeah, I mean it wasn't just what was being said. It was the way that the scene was, like the one where you learn about sort of the beginning of Loki's downfall.
Mm-hmm.
Even like the way the scenes were framed, it wasn't just the way it was scripted, and that it was a bit like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm. It
It was like just the way that the sort of cinematography of it was
That's
very
exactly
good.
what it is.
And
this
it was
speaks
like,
to the points that Kojima made about where Metal Gear Solid was, and this is one of the things that actually, like, for everyone who said, hey, this is one of the things I really, really respect about Metal Gear was the framing and the directing of those scenes, although they be very long.
Well, in Metal Gear,
impeccable.
Whether you thought the story was cheesy or not, you always knew what you were supposed to be looking at, and you knew what you were looking at.
And it was usually looked pretty cool.
And it always looked
really
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah,
but
the
in Too
delivery was
Human, there
fantastic.
are a lot of points where you're like,
Yeah.
What just why did he come out looking like that? What just happened?
And going back to the Mass Effect and Two Human thing really quickly, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of comparisons that can be made between the two games in terms of just, mechanically, like, both games, have their own kind of sloppiness to them in terms of, Mass Effect's not the greatest shooter in the world, but what it does right, it does the RPG stuff right. It does, like, at least in terms of just like the story and the character development, things that are actually really important to me. It's things that I expect to be top tier out of an RPG. Like, I love those characters. I love Rex. I mean, I think Rex was one of the greatest characters in Mass Effect. But like, when I look at Two Human, I'm like thinking, like, who's memorable here? I guess.
Well, they want Thor to be memorable,
but he's not.
No.
Like, he's just kind of like, I'm big Viking guy. I'm gonna slam my hammer everywhere, So
I've got a short fuse.
yeah, it's like I don't know.
I tell you what, we do. We need to take a break. We're gonna take a little break. Come back with some news. We got some games convention out of Leipzig. We got.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna keep playing Two Human. How long are you gonna keep playing for?
I'm gonna. You know what? Actually,
because I want to play co-op with you. And I want to get to the end.
I just got mine. I'm gonna play with a friend, but I can play with you too.
Okay, because I don't know if I'm going to do it wrong and just play through once and give it up, or like play through again with different classes.
Did you see me on? Whenever you see me on, send me an invite. I'm same thing, John or
yeah. I mean,
GC or whatever.
it does a good job of managing multiple characters. I mean, like it's set up.
Multiplayer is better than single. Far better than single player.
It's similar to a chat room, but you get to move around. It's like WoW.
Which is what I might go back for.
You're going to stick through. Do you stick with it and beat it?
I don't know. I was playing late last night, and I was just kind of getting to the point where it was the grind, and the story didn't quite get the hooks into me yet.
See, I got to that last night as well, where I felt like I was grinding, and that death animation was starting to drive me crazy.
But then you said you wanted to have more of it today.
Well, yeah, I want to keep. I mean, something about it's got its hooks in me.
There is a loot compulsion, even if the loot is. Where I agree with GC, the loot is messed up. There's still the base compulsion of I want stuff.
You want an epic set,
but
a cool looking character.
I do have WoW, and I just saw the Lich King trailer, as cinematic as it was. It got me going for WoW again. So maybe I'm just a WoW player, and Two Human is not WoW. So,
all right,
different things.
I think co-op would be a good thing to do, and it actually brings up an interesting point, which someone pinged me on about Braid, which was they asked me if I was going to play anymore, and I'm not going to play Braid anymore. I'll play Two Human some more because I'm still having fun with it. I mean, if I'm not reviewing a game, like I tell you, like the amount of time I'm going to put into a game is directly proportional to how much fun I'm having playing it.
You should start playing Little Big Planet. Just put that out there.
There'll be plenty of that coming up.
We've got it.
There'll be plenty of that coming up. In all new ways and manners in which only your mind can imagine. Stick around, we'll be right back with the news. 2 segments to the news today. We have a games convention going on right now in Leipzig where Matt Leone, Sam Kennedy, and our own news guy, Phil Kohler.
I miss Phil. He hasn't been on in a while.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Well, he's over there in Germany doing...
I'm starting to wonder what you've done with him.
What?
I haven't seen him for like a month.
He wasn't on last week. He stayed home. He worked from home.
Why did he do that?
I don't know.
What the hell?
Is he being punished?
No. He should have been on. Phil, what were you doing, man? You need to be on. You should have been on here. Anyway, I'm on here today.
Is that you exerting some kind of authority over your staff? Boy!
My staff of one. My staff of one and the freelancers. So anyway, in the news from a games convention where Phil has been reporting, as a matter of fact, this is his story. He covered the keynote by David Perry, which evidently ran quite a while. The point that I wanted to lift out of this, which is, Dave has the new Acclaim. Who's he doing the new Acclaim with? A couple other prominent guys. One of them, I should know that off the top of my head.
Such a valuable brand. I'm so happy he brought it.
Well, they bought the brand for $100,000. I mean, that wasn't a bad deal for having a name that people would recognize, right?
Recognize and avoid because they're tied to shitty games for a decade.
Well, so all they're doing now is they've been bringing over various free-for-play or microtransaction-driven MMOs. And obviously they're very psyched for it because the point that David really brought out in his keynote was that the industry, as far as gaming is concerned in general, is moving towards a free-for-play model in his estimation because of something he termed the money wall, which is the point at which certain consumers will no longer pay for entertainment. And he even indicates that, as far as he's concerned, the $59.99 price of next-gen games is already a money wall for many consumers. What do you guys think?
There may be some truth to his statements, but he's just trying to sell his shitty games.
I think he's right now. I think it's true in terms of the direction that the PC stuff is going, and it's going there much faster. I think,
especially with browser games, right?
Well, browser game, but I mean, like what he's doing is, there's things, the Korean stuff that, outside of the obvious stuff like MapleStory, there's one called Ragnarok, which is really big, which is based on a Korean comic book.
Right.
That's microtransaction based, and there's a lot of that stuff. And it's like an 8 meg client you download, and then it streams everything off the web. I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, and the rest of the world is a lot further ahead than we are.
That's true. I think that his viewpoint, though, is especially skewed because of the business model that their company is pursuing, and because of the fact that he even said in the announcement they picked up a European MMO, the name of which escapes me right now. And he even said in the press release, well, I've been playing hundreds of these games looking for one that popped. Well, so if you're playing hundreds of these free-for-pay microtransaction model games, yeah, I guess you do kind of think that they're the future of gaming.
Right. I mean, long-term, yeah, but like short-sighted, no.
As far as entertainment in general goes, TV is moving towards there pretty quickly. You can like watch full Adult Swim shows on AdultSwim.com. You don't need to like pay for cable.
The idea of sort of on-demand,
right,
ad-supported, but certain experiences don't lend themselves to that. I mean, I think, it'd be interesting if, like the next step in the evolution of the Burnout franchises. I mean, you go from disc for $60 to download from the PlayStation Store for $30, and it's got ads in it. I mean, that was an expensive game for Criterion to make. But if they build the next one off the exact same engine and they just build a different city, potentially it could be ad-supported because all that initial cost of developing the engine isn't there anymore. I mean, I would play something that used the exact same engine just in a different location that looked different. I would definitely be interested in that.
Well, and you have to remember too, like outside our little sphere of gaming, there's stuff like Club Penguin that Disney does, and
huge,
and Pirates Online, which they're just insanely popular and they're free to play. Like, and Disney, does really well.
They nail you on the customization. If you want to play a lot and establish an identity for yourself, they charge you for establishing that identity. It's like, I want to look unique. So it's like, that'll be $5.
Right.
Or one of the things that David pointed out, which is that if you want to play it and dip into it more casually, that you can use monetary purchases to jump you forward in the game in lieu of playing it hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
I don't know. I just find this whole thing disappointing because it makes complete sense that he's saying this for his company. But
That's true.
Dave Ferry, a guy who came from hardcore games, making good games, kind of games that appeal to me, hardcore gamer, like now he's speaking to just the masses, and like, are his games that good? No. Are the new Acclaims games good? No.
Look at the games. I don't know. Do you know that for a fact?
I've seen them. They don't interest me. Like, he's just trying to make a big to do. And
but look what EA is even doing with Battlefield Heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's free.
Right.
But you do pay the extra amount of money to look
but
cool.
I think EA, a large publisher with lots of money and lots of people working, are making things already that are better than what Acclaim is doing.
So
he's just trying to get press.
They need to do on the back end for these things is just
right.
huge.
He's just trying to get press. He's getting the press. We're giving it to him. Let's shut about Dave Ferry.
All right. So if you want to get onto the cutting edge of technology, you certainly couldn't do better than Crytek. And Svat Yearly also gave a keynote at the Games Convention where he talked about, believe it or not, the next Cry engine.
After Crysis 2?
These guys are nuts. Okay, so the next Cry engine, which he expects will be ready sometime around the year 2012.
Whoa.
Which is when he also predicts the PS4 and the Xbox 720 will be ready, will be part of what he termed a renaissance of graphics programming. And they've actually, believe it or not, like this is how psycho these guys are. They've already started work on this next engine, like laying technical foundations, like doing some theoretical backgrounding of how are we going to improve the rendering pipeline, that sort of stuff. He says that realistically that they're projecting it will be 3 to 5 times the quality of CryEngine 2.
Wow.
So what I think is going to happen with that is like it's going to be like the bird flying into the window syndrome, but it's going to be with people and like monitors where they're going to think, oh wow, that's awesome. Oh shit, I just hit my head on the monitor kind of thing.
To see the photorealism that we're getting in 2008, and it's kind of scary to think of what this game is going to look like.
It is kind of scary, isn't it? PC fans are very excited to get some more details on Grand Theft Auto 4, which came out of Game Convention as well. Rockstar revealed several of the enhancements for Grand Theft Auto. I mean, the first one is they said that the thing's going to be able to run at a pretty staggering 2,560 by 1,600 resolution.
I thought you were going to say 2,560 frames per second.
2560 by 1,600 screen resolution. Now, granted, you might have to have a supercomputer to actually get the thing to run to do that. Well, that's pretty super high res. Well, the thing to me of the stuff that Sam noted, because he went and saw the game, is they have this deal called replay mode that's always recording. It's like basically having DVR quick reverse, right? You've got 30 seconds of whatever you do at any moment, and you can just tap a button on the keyboard and capture a video clip. Now, how many times especially in Grand Theft Auto have you done something and we're like, fuck, that was
so it's like
cool.
TiVo, and that it's always recording a period of time. It's like TiVo is always you've always got the last 30 minutes no matter what.
So in this case, it's 30 seconds.
That's cool.
So you've always got the last 30 seconds.
So if you do like a really awesome jump or...
Boom, punch this button on the keyboard, you've captured a video clip of it.
Nice.
That's fucking cool.
They should patch that back into the console versions.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I wanted.
Do you think they could do
especially like multiplayer stuff?
I don't know if they could do it, man.
Particularly if you can then go in and like you can like mess. I mean, remember Driver did this. Driver 2 did this.
Yeah, the films. Yeah.
The film thing in Driver 2 was really cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. And then they talked a little bit about multiplayer, but they mostly kept that under their wraps. It's going to be more than 16 players. I mean, that's another place that the PC version could be huge. And we also found out that Microsoft is very strange. Okay, you talk about playing Soul Calibur on pad, right? Well, if you're playing on the Xbox, especially, you're probably not enjoying it a lot if you're playing with a pad, because everyone knows the much maligned D-pad on the 360 controller. There was a new controller on display at, of all places, Konami's booth at GC, where they were showing a special edition 360 controller that was going along with Pro Evo Soccer 2009 that has a D-pad that registers 32 directions of input through the D-pad. Now,
I'm surprised. I didn't know people played Winning 11 with the D-pad.
I know. I didn't either.
I guess they do. But B, it's upsetting they finally fixed the D-pad, but only for a limited time and only for Latin America and Europe.
What on God's green earth? How would you think that's an okay thing to do?
I mean, I got to think that they're going to take this D-pad and put it in all the 360 controllers. They haven't said that, but it only makes sense.
And did you see the controller? Is it an ugly color?
It's a
green?
weird, it's like a minty green.
It's like a minty green.
Yeah.
So wait, 32?
Yeah, I don't get that.
Why 32? Why?
Well, but plus, I mean,
because it's a multiple of 8.
If the D-pad is physically similar to the original one, that's the problem. Really, not the fact that it registers direction.
Surely once you get past 8, you're in almost analog territory in terms of the type of reaction that you're seeing anyway. It's just not speed, but just the degree to which you get to control it.
It's perplexing.
But they've also changed more importantly is the fact that the way that the pad sits in its hole is different on this one, right?
Oh, is it? No, I didn't. I wasn't able to tell.
Regardless of whether we get the 32 whatever, I think more importantly, if they could just take physically how the pad is attached to the controller, we'd settle for that. Dude, because then we can play games with the D-pad that need it.
This whole generation, every console, Wii has Wii Motion Plus, PS3 has DualShock versus 6-axis. Now we have this. Like, can't you fucking get this shit right the first time?
On the fly.
Platform holders.
On the fly prototyping for the next gen systems.
Okay, and
I miss the Duke.
The Duke.
I like the Duke actually. It's a lot of controller.
It's kind of.
But it's not as big.
It's a whole lot of controller.
I dare everyone to dig out an N64 controller, pick it up from the two sides. It's like holding up. It's like
holding a bike handlebar.
It is huge. Anyway.
All right.
And especially when it had the rumble pack in the bottom, so it like tipped over forwards.
Sony had a very active games convention to wrap up our games convention stuff. They had a number of announcements.
Two of them very cool.
Several of them very cool. Some of them Europe only. The first one I want to point out is actually Europe only, and it's kind of disappointing to me because and probably you as well, Shane, which is the VidZone thing. The VidZone thing is really...
It's not compatible with our systems here.
I know.
Televisions.
Oh, well, but that's not the part. Well, who cares what you're talking about? Just a service. It's just a service. They could make it compatible.
To record your video? To record TV?
No.
We're talking about something else. Sorry.
You didn't know about VidZone. Obviously, VidZone is very cool. It's going to be launching in early 2009.
Wait, what is it?
It will allow users to pick up to 10 3,000 songs on demand to listen to on your PS3.
That's new.
You'll be able to build custom playlists and save them on your. You won't be able to save the music, but save the playlist on your hard drive. So you'll be able to do your own custom music. It's all for free. It's all stream. It's basically like on-demand streaming internet radio through this VidZone service.
I was thinking about the Play TV thing, which is coming out for PS.
Right, Play TV is a whole other thing. No, VidZone sounds really cool. You'll also be able to access them via remote play on your PSP, and you can purchase them as ringtones if you don't want to dump money from the tune. So VidZone sounds very cool.
Is that really necessary, though?
What?
I mean, just that kind of functionality? I don't know.
I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, is it necessary?
You think it's cool because you like a lot of the internet radio stuff.
I love internet radio. I'm an internet radio junkie.
I think it'd be cool with remote play.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Get to the actual cool announcements, like Heavy Rain and iPad.
The keypad for the controller, PS3.
It's all right.
I think this is interesting. I think what's most interesting is not the fact that it's a keypad, but the fact that the entire surface of the keypad is a touchpad.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And it also evidently has a mouse attachment. So obviously this is part of the groundwork for actually getting home launched, right?
Though a lot of people have complained that it isn't flush with the controller.
What the fuck ever?
It looks funny being on the top.
It does look funny being on the top because you have to flip it around.
I use a real keyboard with my PS3.
Yeah, I have a
because you can do that. I mean, but this is for people who don't want to drag out a real keyboard, right? This is for thumb generation. The PSP 3000, does that qualify for your
slightly cool?
Slightly cool. So
I'm not going to buy another PSP to get a 3000.
It's pretty cool if you don't already have one.
Yeah, if you don't already have one.
What if you have the original PSP but didn't buy the first upgrade?
Upgrade, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely. I like the way they're optioning it in the
built-in
packs.
microphone.
It's going to come with a 4 GB memory expansion pack.
I don't think anyone that has an original one is going to seriously upgrade.
I might.
I bought a Slimline.
I'm not.
If you haven't already bought a Slimline, buy this one because it's a big improvement.
Yeah, remember that the Slimline does offer you a big improvement as far as loading games off of the UMD because of the extra memory buffer.
I mean, at this point, the differences between an original PSP and this thing are pretty huge. I mean, I was surprised by how much better I like the Slimline. I didn't think I would.
Right.
All right, so there you go. So that didn't strike you. 160 gig PS3, did that strike you?
Because what the world needs is a more expensive PlayStation 3.
I mean, it is a huge hard drive, and you get a bunch of downloadable games for free, right?
Not in North America.
Downloadable games
in Europe, you get a bunch of downloadable.
In North America, you get
and it's pain.
You get
exactly.
But you do get Uncharted, Drake's Fortune.
You do get Uncharted in North America.
What I think is interesting is that they clearly established this $399 and $499 price point. So they give it an extra. They give it the bigger hard drive than the 360 Elite.
Right.
And then sort of backwards justify the $100 price hike by throwing a $60 game that has since been reduced to $30 in with it.
Sure.
So they can say,
I don't believe Uncharted is $29.99.
No, Uncharted's not yet.
It's not a greatest hit?
No.
Okay.
No,
so it's a $60 game, so the hard drive's only really $40.
Well, should we also let people in on the secret that, you can buy the less hard drive capacity and just buy a cheaper, higher capacity hard drive and put it
Stick
in
it
the
in there yourself?
Yeah.
It's a big secret.
You know what's funny is we did a video about 3 weeks after the PS3 came out where we showed we actually did the hard drive swap. Hundreds of thousands of views on that video. So obviously there are actually a lot of people who know about it. Yeah. So it's not a secret.
It's definitely. The last thing Sony really needs to be doing right now is saying, here is a more expensive version of that thing you're not really buying. I think that there are, and at this whole...
They're sort of playing into Microsoft's hand.
Right, and what we have, we haven't talked about the statement that they made about how their pool of users for PlayStation 3 is PS2 users, right? The statement that they put out through, it was an interview that Scott Steinberg, who's their VP of marketing, it was a few weeks ago, where they were that when they look at the competitive environment and that the Wii, they don't really see the Wii as a threat because there's 120 million PlayStation 2s out there, and obviously their primary upgrade audience is, going after the PS2 players and converting them to PS3 players, and that's their strategy moving forward.
But I think there are 100 million PS2 users who haven't bought a PS3. So is it stupid to try to convert those users?
You think I think that's an incredibly bullheaded and arrogant way of approaching the.
I think it's a realistic way. Those are PlayStation consumers, and they should be concerned about how to make those people buy a new system.
They got that accomplished as soon as they took out backwards compatibility for PS2. That was easy.
But I think that kind of blind brand loyalty isn't something that I mean, particularly kids these days don't have that kind of brand loyalty.
No, but Sony has especially in Europe, Sony has very good brand loyalty in Europe, and I think this is a European event. And I don't know.
I may have to agree with John on this. I mean, I think that brand loyalty has definitely slipped considerably in the last decade as far as people being really attached to brands. It's become very trendy to be like, what's the brand of today?
And what I think they are doing, what they did really well at Leipzig, I think, is start to show just what you can do and the imagination of some of the PS3 studios in terms of things other than games. I mean, like
get to iPad already.
Yeah, let's talk about iPad.
iPad right here.
Get to it.
Is that not the cutest damn thing you've ever seen?
The coolest, like, augmented reality implementation I've seen.
Right, because as cool as iJudgment was, it was hopelessly geeky.
Well, what is this? Because I actually don't really.
Okay.
I'm not...
So it's really cool. Like the demo, you have to watch the demo video, which we have on like game videos, but it's around all over kind of places. So basically, it's a iToy thing where there's a table in front of the television. The iToy is facing out, and so it's capturing the image of you looking at the table. And when you put your hand into the environment and tap the table, then a little cute pet comes up out of the table.
It looks like a Monchichi or something.
And you can like play with him in this virtual world, which is the table that's in front of your television.
Because the iToy can see the space in front of it. It then knows where the flat surface is. So then anything that you do in the environment, so you can kind of, the way in the iToy games you could like tickle things, and it would keep them up in the air, like you would spin the plates or whatever.
Yeah.
The same mechanic, but you can pet the creature.
And you can draw a picture, and he can draw a picture.
Do you remember at GDC last year we were joking about the fact that they had this game where you could draw things and then it would play tank battle with it, and they had the penis recognition algorithm in it. You remember that?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, that technology is in iPad, but what you do is you draw something on a piece of card and hold it up to the screen, and the iToy looks at it, grabs a 2D image of it, and then extrapolates a 3D image of it and makes an object that then the little creature can interact with. So in the demo they draw a toy car, and then it scans it, and then essentially what you do in the game is you give the drawing of the toy car to the creature.
Wow.
The creature then draws it on a piece of paper and then casts this like magic spell on it, and it turns into a 3D object, which you can then say, I want it to be made out of wood, or I want it to be made out of plastic. And then you can bat that around the environment and play with the toy with the creature.
So it's everything Bonzi Buddy should have been.
Can you imagine the implications, real quick, that I just thought of? Can you imagine the implications of like being able to use that stuff if they do in Little Big? Like just being able to draw stuff.
Doing that with Sackboy and have Sackboy run around on something and just being able to do stuff. And
yeah, I mean, I think everybody saw this. It doesn't come out until like next fall, but it's so out there. It's so like no one else has ever done that. And the first time we all saw Nintendogs, we were all like rolling our eyes, like, oh, that's retarded. But no. Like we've all seen
to be watching the TV screen and it looks like the thing is really there.
And as much as we all think it's cool, when your son sees this,
oh my god!
Oh my god!
Well, the other thing is that the graphics are gorgeous. Like the hair, I mean, and they show the way you can customize the creature.
So let me ask you guys a question, because David is like super skeptical. He's like, it's never going to look like that. It's good. This is going to be Killzone video all over again. Do you think that when the final product comes out, how close will it come to that concept reel we saw?
I think it'll be really close because it's one thing on the screen.
Yeah.
It's not trying to render a huge environment the way Killzone is. It's one little critter like running around, and it's not doing a lot of other things at the same time. It's not like doing huge AI algorithms and stuff. It's just a little
doing a lot of collision detection.
Yeah.
I mean, plus when I saw even something like Eye of Judgment when they first unveiled it, I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. It's not going to work like that. It's going to be bullshit. But it works like that. And I have no reason to think that, I think the iToy is actually the most underappreciated like peripheral in the history of games.
So does Sony.
Yeah. Well, so does Sony Europe.
Right.
Like Sony US basically just ignored the thing.
Which is kind of sad, because there are a lot of... I think the reason they ignored it is because the first crop of games for it were all the wash the soap suds off of the screen
things
sort of
that are now
crap.
selling millions on the Wii.
Well, right.
Right, and we're all waiting for Nintendo to do Nintendogs on Wii, and like I'm kind of impressed that Sony put their pet out there, announcing it.
I thought iPad was really, really cool. And you wanted to talk about Heavy Rain.
Yeah, so Heavy Rain, you've all been hearing about this. The game is going to make you cry. It's from the guys who made Fahrenheit. What was it called?
Indigo Prophecy.
Indigo Prophecy. And like Matt got to see it. Our Matt Leon got to see it at E3, and his preview's up on One Up. You can read all about it. And there's an awesome trailer out. But
there's an awesome trailer.
What's amazing to me is the backlash. People who are like, "Oh, it's an adventure game. There's quick time events. Oh, I don't want to play it." But we knew it was an adventure game going in. These guys
Right.
make
It's
adventure
by
games.
Quantic Dream. What the fuck did you expect it to be?
I think it looks stunning.
There was some backlash out there. My friend Jeff Canada, it was like twittering around about, and it immediately sparked talk of Shenmue.
Right.
Because they were like, oh, I should have just begun and end with Shenmue. But then
it quickly turned into Dragon's Lair. It's like, oh, that's just Dragon's Lair.
it's not just Dragon Lair.
No.
But neither was Indigo Prophecy.
I'd settle for Indigo Prophecy, only better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Because
you saw the trailer, right?
Yeah. I mean, it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
I can't wait to play it.
Gale's direction really held up really very well in that game until about the last.
It got a bit wacky at the end.
When it turned
Fifth.
into the Matrix, that one.
And the
well,
spirits and all
Yeah.
that
But
kind of
this one looks very like mundane. Again, it's like set in reality. You're this investigator. It's like a
Yep.
serial killer. It's nothing supernatural at all.
But I think where they pull you in particularly well is talking about caring about a character like. I bought into the Indigo Prophecy character really, really quickly. The relationship
the
with
fact
his brother,
that he's so
the whole-
tormented and
the
doesn't know what's going
tormenting,
on, and
the girl, the whole thing. I was like really, really.
I think one of the
yanked
cool
in.
things about Heavy Rain they announced was that there's going to be a demo, and that demo is going to be like a prologue that isn't part of the game.
oh,
I think that's very
excellent.
very smart.
Heavy Rain is very much the PS3's Alan Wake, so I mean they're both kind of on that same
that's what I
wavelength.
felt. I was excited to finally see an adventure game on a next gen console.
Segue of the year goes to Garnet Lee.
Well, I could pull it off the bottom. Yeah, Alan Wake is Alan Wake. That was gonna be my final story of the bit here because Alan Wake. Everyone's been wondering what's been going on with it,
They
right?
announced it 2.5 years ago.
Well, they didn't. So interestingly enough, I mean, they sort of announced it by way of having it on display at an ATI booth at E3 because they were showing off some rendering stuff. And I mean, obviously they've showed the game. I think it might be the understatement of the year, though, for them to say that development hasn't exactly gone smoothly. I like that. He's like, yeah, we're here, we're turning in, we're working hard on getting Alan Wake ready for you to enjoy. We've been in development for a long time. But saying that it hasn't gone smoothly might be a really big understatement for them. Where do you think it's going to wind up? It's still next year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of retailers still have it on the schedule for this year.
It's not this year.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard that Remedy, their load has been lightened. They're not making the next Max Payne.
Well,
Oh, really?
Dun dun dun.
dun-dun-dun-dun.
And there's not a Max Payne tied in with the movie, right? Or is there?
There's a new Max Payne.
Wow. There you go. Rumor control central. So good to know that Alan Wake is still in. And of course, it's funny. I mean, at least they have their sense of humor. They did say that this is just part of our psychological thriller. Is it all real or is it imagined?
That's what Dennis should have done.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, kidding.
Insanity.
No,
Insanity effect. Sorry.
Don't give him any ideas. On the subject of Dennis, one thing he did want to do was turn.
I was segueing there. See.
He wanted
Yeah,
to.
look at you.
He wanted
That would have
to.
been so great. Sorry, it would have been so great if T-Human started up and played for about 10 minutes, and then it's just like Eternal Darkness 2.
Oh, that would have been awesome. or Blue Screen of Death.
Yeah.
Like the sanity system was really cool. Very underrated thing. The sanity system might need to kick in for the people around St. Catharines if they were counting on T-Human somehow kicking the city into becoming an industry hub. This article was on St. Catharines, Ontario, via the Standard, which is a Canadian website that is associated with the Standard News, which I believe is a newspaper. Get all these references right, man. This doing the news thing is like driving me batty. I'm all
Where's
worried
Phillip?
about referencing stuff now.
Where's Philip?
It's in Germany, yeah.
Anyway, executive director of Engine said that we have Ontario's biggest video game producer in our backyard, and we should take advantage of that. There's no reason why we can't keep the talent here. Silicon Knights is carrying a lot of weight on its shoulder because Two Human will be playing a big part of that. The idea was that they wanted St. Catharines to become a video game development hub of Canada.
What's the population of
Not
that
too
area?
big. I've been
not-
there a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Well,
both
even
there.
just when we
Yeah.
went up there like a few months ago or whatever, Dennis actually made a big deal out of like there's the school there, like they want to get Silicon Knights involved more in the community. They
Yep.
want to build it up as being like the mecca of like game development in Canada, Ontario. And it's cool. Like you can't fault the guy for wanting to be like, look, like I
Yeah.
want to build this community around video games. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
Admirable.
But to say that this town is basically going to live or die based on
It's
a single
crazy.
video game,
It's really tough,
absurd.
right? It's really
It's
tough.
absurd. I mean, but I can't fault the guy for trying.
No, it's
So,
not. It's great to pin your hopes on something. The cast and crew at Flagship Studios, which unfortunately are now no longer in San Francisco, did pin themselves on Hellgate, and Bill Roper, who we've had on the show here before, is a nice guy, came and talked to Jeff Green about what went wrong with Flagship and Hellgate, and that is a long story, and if you're interested in that story, you should go find the interview that Jeff did with him, because it was quite exposing. However, just a few quick highlights, and I think the thing that struck me the most about Bill coming by was that it was a really humbling experience for them. I mean, they had a lot invested in this, and they put a lot of effort and work into the game, and for it to fall apart as badly as it did.
How does this reflect on the EA Partners program?
That's a very good question. I think that's a question that can't be answered right now.
All right.
That's a question that can't be answered right now, because in the end, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that they wound up without any money. They being Flagship Studios wound up without any money, and they were part of that partners program. And obviously, EA didn't come to their rescue, but I mean, neither did Namco or anybody else.
EA, we're your partner.
But Bill said though that people were in negotiations for buyouts and things like that.
Right.
But the process is just so slow that I think if EA even wanted to, they couldn't move fast enough to save them. I mean, I don't know.
Well, and he also, I think to his credit, he very squarely stepped in front. First of all, for those who don't know, the guy ponied up his own 401k money and some of his own bank account funds to help carry some of the guys who were laid off at Flagship at the very end, which is like incredibly noble thing, and that was a really good thing to do. He said that we tried to be a standalone game and a free play game and an MMO and an RPG and a shooter. We were trying to be something for everybody and ended up really not pleasing many people at all. How do you like that? On the other end of the sales spectrum is Grand Theft Auto 4, which has topped the first ever global markets report. And boy, our NPD nerds? The NPD nerds have something to be even more excited about. This is like NPD Palooza.
GMR.
It's huh?
The Global Markets Report, GMR.
Hey, it's gamer. It's
and
the global
gamer. GTA 4 doesn't come out in Japan, one of those 3 markets, until like October.
That's right. So what this is a new coalition, or I guess not really a coalition, but it's a agreement between NPD, the GFK Chart Track Limited, which handles the chart tracking in the UK, and Enterbrain, which does the numbers for Japan, where they're going to release, evidently, a semi-annual report of the 3 regions' best-selling games, which, of course, they'll be selling the full report. They did, however, give us the highlights of the top 5, and not very surprisingly for us, Grand Theft Auto took the top spot. Shane's point being that it's not out in Japan.
The other 4 games are for Nintendo consoles.
Well, one of the things also is incredible is that the number, so GTA, 6.3 million.
Yep.
2 platforms worldwide.
2 platforms worldwide.
Number 2, Smash Brothers Brawl, 5.4 million on 1 platform worldwide.
Yep. And it's done fantastic numbers. It's got 3.5 million in the U.S. and
I recently realized I never bought Smash Brothers, and more importantly, I don't want to. I just thought
I never bought Mario Kart, and I don't want to.
Same here.
Yeah.
But
Mario Kart would be number 3.
I decided I'm not going to buy Animal Crossing because you know what, Nintendo? I'm not going to buy the same.
High five.
I'm not going to buy the same games I bought for GameCube again. Sorry.
Well, you're seemingly on an island by yourself because numbers 2, 3, and 4, all Wii games, Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart Wii, and Wii Fit, and they've all sold fantastically.
Just blew me away.
Really?
3.6 million units of $100 game.
That's pretty impressive,
People are
isn't
getting toned all over the world.
by leaving it in their closet after playing it once.
Are there still supply problems for Wii Fit, or did they get that under control?
Hell if I know. What do I look like?
I think it's
I actually, the other day, just saw like 3 separate people walk down the street carrying Wii Fit.
Seriously?
Totally randomly.
Wow.
Like,
Were they fat?
Nope, they're all really fit. I'm like, shit, it's working.
They just carry the box
They
around.
just kept carrying the box around. Exactly. It's like, now set the box down in front of you and step on it. Anyway, finally rounding out the top 5, Guitar Hero 3, which is another one that, I think one of the things this points out, besides the power of the Wii, is how much we've talked about it a lot, but how strong the North American market is and how much it really figures into sales numbers.
It's the biggest. It's the biggest market.
It's not, and it's a big enough biggest market that it can make a dramatic change of events for your title.
Because Madden, it'll probably end up on this list, and not because of Europe and Japan.
Yeah, not in the least because of Europe and Japan. Shane, did you know that the 360 outsold the PlayStation 3 for a week in Japan? Were you up on that?
Tales of Vesperia.
Tales of Vesperia. Lines,
Tales of Vesperia.
shortages.
It is good, and it deserves to be played.
And now, evidently, 360s not readily available in Japan, right?
I have to wonder, did Microsoft plan this?
Now, why would they do that? If you have an opportunity to finally...
So they can have a press release about how there aren't any 360s and there won't be any for another month?
Look, when you can sell 25,000 360s and suddenly be completely out of stock, that's not really a good sign.
There's a Vesperia bundle, too. So, I mean, obviously
Right.
they maybe undershipped that. It's hard to say.
All right, so one of the most controversial news stories we've run in the last week has been Sam Kennedy's story from a DFC report about Sony losing more money on the PS3 already than it made on the entire lifespan of the PS2. Have you guys looked at this report?
I saw Sam's story about it.
Okay.
It doesn't take into account the money that Sony lost launching the PS2.
Yeah,
which I think is
that's a big...
pretty important thing because you're comparing like apples and oranges and not comparing the oranges of the other apple.
Yeah.
Well, and plus it makes sense. Like this system isn't just video games; it's their Blu-ray.
Right.
Sony was the driving force behind Blu-ray. This is like going to be their moneymaker for years to come from now.
And
Exactly.
and he does mention, like, by the way, Microsoft has lost $6 billion and had two profitable quarters. You know, like.
I think the big thing here is that it's very difficult to compare a console in one phase of its life cycle to one that's not even remotely near there. I mean, you're talking about the PS3 where it is right now. Well, of course, it's lost that much money because it's at that phase of its cycle.
What it's showing is that each generation is incrementally more expensive to get your foot in the door with that.
Well, is that a big frickin' surprise? I mean, these things are getting more...
But Nintendo is one who went the other way. I mean, it shows there is another path besides, like, selling every, like, going broke to make money, you know. And
it reinforces an argument that, you know, what the dude from the CryEngine guy...
Shavat.
Yeah. Do we really need that by 2012?
I don't know, you know...
If it's going to... I mean, like, presumably the hardware to do that is even more... I mean, like, we're going to get to a point where Microsoft and Sony are just going to be like, you know what? Forget it. This is ridiculous.
I mean, as I said on this podcast before, if the next Xbox is fighting the PS2 and the Wii, then maybe we should just call the whole thing off. Like
the next Xbox is fighting
if the next Xbox has to fight the PS2 and Wii, then why are we even doing this? Like,
why would it have to? Because it's out so soon.
If people are still prepared to play old technology, that says it's the experience, not the technology. So why are we pushing it so hard?
But
the Wii and the PS2 are already proving
But at the same time, we are all graphics whores, and we don't want to look at Wii games.
But
so it's this weird double-edged disaster.
On top of that, though, but real quick, just that, like, the people who are buying the Wii and the PS2 aren't people that are going to be with video games necessarily in the long term. They're not the core audience as Nintendo likes to use or whatever and likes to ignore. Like, that's what, like, kind of bugs me about this whole thing of, like, well, look how well the PS2 is still selling or whatever. Yeah, but these aren't people who are necessarily, you know, gonna be there always, like, from years from now, still playing video games.
But it shows you when, like, Microsoft, when they launched Xbox 360, they murdered it, and they used that to transition that year of Xbox One games into Xbox 360 games, and it paid off, you know, handsomely.
It did.
They leapfrogged ahead.
It moved people forward.
They sold 10 million units, and it showed that works too. So, like, but the other thing is Nintendo's like, wait a minute, let's let them keep playing these old games. Let's keep selling the old technology. Like, why force them to upgrade? So it kind of works both ways.
You know, my creative frustration here is this: you brought up the Wii and having to fight the Wii and it not pushing the technology. But the Wii is not just a different technology approach; it's a different philosophy approach. Yeah. And Cammie Dunaway was interviewed for what was the site, VG Charts, because they were doing a Latin America Nintendo demo thing. And one of the things she brought up was how there's this value to the casual game scene and how those games are pulling new people into the gaming arena. And she pointed to herself because, of course, she came from Yahoo. Yep. And so, you know, she's not a gamer herself and or hasn't been traditionally thought of as a gaming person.
She did okay on that snowboard.
Yeah, so she's picking it up and she's getting into it. But her point is that that's where they are. You know, they're in that space where they're using casual games and broad market appeal games to bring people into the Wii. I think that one of the most disappointing things for me about what Sony's done with the PS2 is what they haven't done with it in this space, which was encouraged super creative, experimental, hardcore gamers games that could have still had this huge market to reach, you know.
On PS2?
Yes, because PS2 still has the large install base.
What do you mean by an experimental hardcore game? Like Persona 4 is pretty hardcore, and it's coming out this fall for PS2.
Okay, Persona 4 is one game. I mean, stuff along the lines of, like, Shadow of the Colossus. I mean, that
game sold over 1 million copies in America.
Okay, because you had a huge installed base.
Right.
But they haven't encouraged people to keep trying to do that kind of stuff.
Well,
they've moved all of those creative types into big boon or bust games that are all AAA games for
Right.
PS3 that have huge amounts of money riding on
Okay, I
them.
see your argument. Like maybe there are some first-party teams that could be doing PS2 games, but I'm personally surprised by the number of third-party games that are still coming out for PS2 that I'm interested in.
Well, like Loco Roco could have been a PS2 game.
Yeah.
It's
I
and
mean-
still may well end up being,
Yeah.
it's not.
Daxter's coming out for PS2,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think there's a space there that hasn't been explored very well, where people could still have done really cool stuff that, again, about the experience.
Hey,
And made a great-
PS2 still not $99.
Yep, and
I know.
I think what's coming out of this argument as well is that, I mean, to your point about they're not gamers, what's happening is that as TV is changing and video is changing and is that all of these things are now, it's not competing for your passion for games, it's just competing for your time.
Exactly. That's a good
Because
point.
there are only so many hours in the day that you have to entertain yourself. And what are you going to choose to do that? Are you going to download an episode of Venture Brothers and watch that for 20 minutes off AdultSwim.com? Or are you going to play, 20 minutes of Carnival Games 2 on Wii in December? I mean...
That's exactly what it is.
And that's what it's all about. And like right now, Nintendo is doing a better job of anyone
They're killing it.
of capitalizing on and recognizing
Absolutely.
that it's not about narrative and it's not about technology. It's just we want you to burn the minutes that you have available with this.
But are those people 5 years from now still going to be with them? Like the
Right.
people who are going to be with Nintendo 5 years from now are the people who love Nintendo games, the people like who love Mario and love all this other stuff. You've got such a huge part of the Wii audience that they're like, oh, this is like the cool party thing right now. I still think that holds true to a certain extent. But they're not. I don't think these people are the people who are going to be there 5 years when even Nintendo's like, okay, we need to release a new version of the Wii. They're not necessarily going to be these people that buy that hardware upgrade because they're like, why should I do that?
Yeah,
Like,
I think if they're really casual, they won't care.
yeah,
They'll think about it as the thing they pull out when people come over.
Yeah.
So a great competition for me. We all liked Indigo Prophecy. I would gladly have put the time into playing just an Indigo Prophecy sequel on PS2. The PS2 hardware handled it fine. It was a fun game. It was all about the experience.
I would like to see it on PSP.
Hmm.
These more I like these.
Who published Indigo Prophecy?
Atari.
Sorry.
Oh, they're still around, kind of.
But I think that,
Phil's there.
but these like a lot of these sort of very narrative, where you're not having to, where your interactions are fairly limited, lend themselves really well to handheld games. And I think something like that, where again, it's not really leaning on a lot of AI or a lot of like crazy logic. It's just the way that it serves up the story.
Like Phoenix Wright on
yeah,
DS.
like Phoenix Wright on DS. I think I'm still racking my brain as to why the PSP is selling as well as it is right now, because the stuff that Sony says that they want it to be and the things that it actually is, there's still a complete mismatch.
Yeah.
Like, there is very little on PSP that is aimed at anyone other than hardcore gamers, and there's certainly nothing aimed at kids and nothing aimed at families and nothing, and the stuff where Nintendo is really killing it.
Yep.
Like, if you were to say, okay, what handheld should I buy my kid?
There's no question.
There's
It's an
no
immediate
question at
answer.
all, because what would you even suggest? The most family-friendly game they have on PSP is probably
Buzz. They have Buzz for PSP, don't they?
Buzz
They
is
do.
coming.
But I think the best
Ratchet size matters, maybe.
I think the best solution for PSP, and this may be what's happening, I've heard a few murmurs, is that at some point the PSP store that you can go to on your PSP is going to be there, and you'll be able to buy games directly to your PSP.
Yeah.
And some of them will be smaller. And I think that is the way they need to go. Make it like an iPhone.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hopefully that 4 gig pack is the precursor to that.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. That would be great. Make it like the iPhone store. Absolutely. Companies, third-party publisher that could probably use a store once this finally happens, which I guess it's now pretty much just a done deal. EA and Take-Two have now gotten their blessing from the FTC, which for those who there was a reaction was, oh, well, does this mean there's a merger? No, what this was the Federal Trade Commission had been looking into if EA and Take-Two were to merge, would it violate antitrust laws? And they basically issued a finding that nope, there would be no antitrust violations, and they'd give their blessing.
Well, I think as long as Activision is as huge as it is, that kind of keeps the balance addressed.
If the Activision merger didn't happen,
You think that would have changed things?
I think that would have changed things massively. But
Not that more consolidation is good for our industry.
no, it's not. It's terrible. But
So I think the counter argument to this is that when EA and Take-Two merge, that's essentially the end of any sports game competition in North America.
Yep.
I mean,
which is I just I don't know. I think that's going to be a huge sticking point. I mean,
it will. You think that will slow things down?
I think that's
The way the licenses are handled might have to change again.
But I mean, the most obvious.
Nobody's going to come in and take them on.
I think. The only group that would be Activision.
Yeah, but I don't see that. I don't see Activision getting involved in that. That's not their space.
I could see it.
Yeah.
You really think so?
Everything is their space.
Come on, they're the two biggest companies in the world. They go head-to-head on everything.
If there's a space, they want it.
Yeah. I mean, look at Guitar Hero Band Pack, which is $190 apparently, the full thing.
Really?
I mean, they're going head-to-head on like nearly $200 ticket items. You know, I think that they may say, hey, let's build a sports team and see what we can do.
Well, so yeah, it does definitely seem from the posturing that's taken place here in the last few days between EA and Take-Two that I think is going to go forward. I mean, they've now entered into a confidentiality agreement. EA is going to be part of Take-Two's strategic planning, which to me says that they're basically sitting down at the table and hammering out the number.
Threw the right number at Zelnick.
Well, not just through the right number, but they cleared the point where it didn't look like they were just acquiescing right off the bat. And so, it's all part of the posturing. It's like buying a car.
I think they just offered him 2 tanning beds instead of 1.
Oh.
Hey-oh.
Oh, what?
What?
Who's that?
I don't know.
You guy.
Sorry.
So, on the front of music games, we have a bunch of information on music games. First one being that both SingStar and Rock Band have come up with different approaches to handling their backward compatibility for their libraries. Rock Band's is that you'll be able to pay $5, which has been a sticking point for a lot of people, which evidently is going to in some way contribute to the licensing fee to basically unlock a patch that will let you bring the Rock Band 1 songs into Rock Band 2.
Why is that $5?
That's a damn good question.
Is this whether you own Rock Band 1 or not?
Well, interestingly enough, if you go out, at least according to the article that Patrick Klepek wrote, which was because they had it as, I guess,
Well,
did Stephen write it? Stephen may have written it.
He writes for the company that's doing it.
Yeah, it was on it. It was MTV. Actually, Totillo may have written it now that I think about it because I went and read it. Evidently, one thing they did was mention was that you could go out and just, borrow surreptitiously the Rock Band 1 disc and pay the $5 and import the songs.
That's bullshit.
That is kind of bullshit, right? And it's kind of odd. It does kind of point to one of the, and we're going to talk about licensing fees in here in just a moment, one of the weird spaces they're in as far as licensing songs, because what it says is that evidently the songs are being not just licensed for play on music games, but they're being licensed for your particular single application. So I'm Rock Band. I buy a license for this song. That song's license is applicable only to play in that specific edition of Rock Band. It's kind of dumb. It would be like buying
a specific
that's
edition,
music
or
licensing, though.
is that specific edition of Rock Band, or that specific user?
That specific. Ooh. Yeah, that specific user with that specific edition of Rock Band. So it would be like if you downloaded a song from iTunes, and not only would it only play on your iPod, but it would only play on your 3rd or 4th generation iPod that you downloaded it to originally. You wouldn't be able to move it.
Oh, you wouldn't be able to move it. It doesn't move with your profile. It just moves with. It sticks with what it's.
Right. Because if you read the language of what they're talking about here,
that's like PC licensing.
It is. Because what they say is that the $5 fee that you're paying is going towards offsetting the licensing cost associated with transferring the license over to Rock Band 2.
Okay.
It's kind of weird. SingStar, on the other hand, has a much more fiddly way of handling it all, which is you do disc swaps. You just do disc swaps. You'll be able to you'll go to the song selection screen. While you're there, you punch the select button. It'll let you swap another disc in.
Well, hey, you know what? If you could just play the previous game.
So if I bought SingStar Turkish Party, I could rip those into my SingStar 2.0 from
No,
PS3?
you can't.
No,
It's
no rip. It doesn't go to the hard drive.
Oh.
So you have to keep the discs there all the time. So you're going to have to keep your little stack of discs there.
I thought it just ripped.
Oh, no, it doesn't rip it at all. Every time you want to sing those songs, you're going to have to go to the song selection screen.
SingStar Turkish Party.
To anyone in the US, that doesn't matter anyway, because none of you are going to play SingStar anyway, because apparently it's uniquely European experience.
Well, they micro-localize it for every country. There's like SingStar Romania Volume 4.
Really?
Really. Yeah.
But I mean,
Do you own
people
that?
here just don't seem to care. I mean, it's done nothing in the US. All versions have done nothing.
It's going to be interesting to see what's the. It just really slipped out of my head just now. The 360
Lips.
You think
Tank.
Yeah.
Complete tank.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think that'll be the worst selling first-party 360 game.
I think so too.
I think Put You in the Movies is going to kill it.
I don't know. People like sparkly lights.
on
you know what?
their microphone.
I don't think they like singing.
No, that's true.
I think we're a very reserved bunch when it comes to expressing ourselves.
Not when we're drinking, though.
Yeah. Maybe that's the thing. Maybe it should be location-based.
on the PlayStation blog, Sony's America's Director of Third-Party Relationship, Michael Sharrock, reassured fans that there will at least be a basic level of gameplay compatibility between the various plastic instruments associated with Rock Band 2, Guitar Hero,
Sanity reigns across the land.
And even SingStar. And just because people were asking about it, I noticed that the guys over on the Gamerscore blog were like, yeah, 360 has that too. Consider this an official announcement. Thanks for playing.
It's called USB. It's been a standard for a while now.
So I guess what they're saying is that they've gotten the various software manufacturers to acquiesce.
And you'll be pleased to know, even the Rock Revolution instruments will work with Rock Band and Guitar Hero.
Which is awesome. Because, the Rock Revolution drum set has those Trivial Pursuit pieces that are actually drum pads. Have you seen those? It's pretty awesome.
All 7 of them.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic. And it's a good thing because music games have been a tremendous contributor to the growth of the video game industry. Sales figures indicate that where did mail come from? Sales figures indicate that music games.
Male figures.
The male figure that Garnet is looking at.
Music games have contributed 32% of the industry growth during 2008, which I don't think comes as a surprise to anybody who just heard the sales figure for the world of Guitar Hero 3.
I think if you'd have told that to us 4 years ago, we would have been quite surprised.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Is if you had said, "Hey, we're going to all be playing plastic guitars and drums and singing songs," and
even remember when the Red Octane guy would come and show us how he would mimic everything, like it was all about copying. And now, that whole idea, it's important for the gameplay, but the idea of something not being official now. Mm-hmm. Imagine if something like Guitar Hero had any songs in it that weren't the real ones now. That our expectations of these things have changed so much just in the last year, really.
Yeah. But but it wouldn't have, the music industry wouldn't have embraced it until it started making money. So it's lucky the Guitar Hero hit when it did and found an audience.
Well, and that has actually drawn a lot of attention, which has created some problems, which we're going to talk about in just a second. But it's also really staggering to think about 32% of the growth coming from music games in an era when the dollar numbers of growth in the video game business are pretty staggering. So that's a whole lot of money.
Connected to the music stuff, do you have that Sega announced the Samba de Amigo song list today as well?
No, but I'll tell you what they announced is more important. It's got Ooh La La stage in it.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah!
And all the songs from the original Samba are in it, and it's got a whole bunch of new ones, and it's going to have a download store, which is kind of cool.
That is cool. Why'd you grimace at Ooh La La, dude? Ooh La La is awesome.
I grimace because you're very loud in my headphones.
Oh, sorry.
And they also showed the maracas that look like bongs. Did you see those?
No.
They're these big red sort of bulbous things that you put the Wii remote into.
Are they glassware?
No, but they're sort of this semi-transparent red plastic.
Oh, okay.
Nice
so when
ceramics or something.
So when the Wii remote isn't in it and it's got this sort of big hole in the top, it's definitely got a bongy kind of quality to it.
Did they actually make the maraca noise?
I think so. Yeah.
I hope so because the Dreamcast ones sure did.
Yeah.
What's a bong?
I don't know. It's some kind of thing you put.
I think if you listen to GFW, you'll learn more about that.
So one of the things that has happened as a result of that massive influx of money coming into the music game industry is that it's gotten the attention of the various recording groups. One of them being Warner Music. Warner Music, a week or so ago, fired some shots across the bow of Activision Blizzard regarding licensing fees and how much was being paid, or rather how much wasn't being paid, and telling them that they should expect to start paying a lot more money into the system. Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick, in an interview with the Financial Times, was pretty direct in responding to that, in saying that those comments were one-sided, that they weren't respectful of how much the music game business was doing to resuscitate the music industry in a whole, which was kind of floundering.
Yeah, how much back catalog shit have they moved through Guitar Hero and Rock Band?
It's pretty impressive, actually. It's pretty impressive. He went on to say that, kind of sort of little cloaked threat here, saying we're going to favor those publishers that recognize and appreciate how much we can add value to their artists. We're introducing a whole new group of artists to new audience and resulting in their iTunes downloads being exponentially higher than they would be otherwise. He also goes on to note that new album sales go up, that you get new merchandising opportunities, that their tours do better, that in general, that it attracts all this attention. And then he points out that, by the way, when they're making a game, it's not exactly the same as just putting a song up on iTunes, that they have to bring the song into the studio, They have to come up with the note tracking for it. They have to build a game that has, ways to interact with the music. So it's not just the same, and the licensing fee structure needs to be.
And in the case of
taking all that into account.
Dragon Force 3-pack that was announced today for Guitar Hero 3, it's a lot of work.
3-pack?
A 3-pack of Dragon Force songs.
That's going to make your fingers fall off.
I do think that the plastic guitar industry has kind of helped to save the music industry. And
I don't know about help to save it.
I think it's also helped to save the purveyors of plastic third-party peripherals for consoles.
But like looking at things like the Metallica album coming out in Guitar Hero or Chinese Democracy coming out in Rock Band, I mean, obviously in a very short time, it's become very important for the music industry.
And for a lot of people, I mean, the first way they experience like an entire album in the case in some things is by playing it rather than hearing it.
It's very true.
Like, I mean, if you really have to listen to Rush's Moving Pictures, which
rock.
It's Rush, so I mean, whatever.
Fuck you.
Wow.
If you're a pretentious,
if you're into
that kind of stuff and you're a pretentious wanker and you have to do this, then
John just threw the gauntlet down against Rush, right there.
Not even Tom Sawyer?
No.
Wow.
Just no.
Really?
I guess I just had a bad experience when I was a kid with like this.
Yeah, I
friend
guess you did.
That just was very.
I'll kind of agree.
Yeah, I guess you did.
I'll kind of agree. Growing up, most of the Rush fans I knew, not too cool.
They only listen to Rush. What is up with that?
It's
not too
weird.
cool.
It's really weird.
Fuck all y'all guys.
Anyway,
Sorry.
for a lot of people, the first time they experience moving pictures will be by playing it, which I think is kind of cool. And I think the same with the Who album. The fact that the first time for a lot of people that they experience a classic album is that by playing it rather than just sitting and listening to it.
Yeah, a lot of kids are getting exposed to good old music they wouldn't have heard otherwise.
Exactly.
I'm going to kidnap John and tape him into, duct tape him
don't.
into a chair with his eyes open and force him to watch Rush in Rio. Over and over and over.
No.
Over and over and over.
No, because I would like John to keep coming back on the show.
Yeah.
He's rather important to me.
Jesus.
All right, that's enough plastic instruments.
There's really not a whole lot of detail to this one, but because the story has been so controversial, I just thought I'd throw it in here, which is that Tecmo's president, Yasuda, has resigned. Obviously, it's in wake of the Ninja Gaiden
Wouldn't you
lawsuits.
just love to know what is really going on over there?
Next week on the OneUp.com, there will be an extended version of Milky's senses-shattering interview with Itagaki. His first
an
interview.
extended version?
The director's
And it's
cut.
very, very extended.
The
Because
director's
the
cut.
original was pretty long.
Yeah.
So if you want to know what's going on with Mr. Tomonobu Itagaki,
I mean, there's
out
all
one.
kinds of crazy stuff there. There's allegations of secret negotiations,
sexual harassment.
sexual harassment, and I mean, so there's a lot of drama there, and it would be interesting to know what's going on there. Another interesting resignation, which I brought in here because I think this to me was a big deal, and I don't think it's going to get picked up, and I don't think a lot of people are going to pay any attention to it. But Jamil Moldina left the GDC, and that's a big deal. I mean, the GDC.
He's been associated for many years.
5 years,
Yeah.
but I mean, it's been a really, really important 5 years for the growth of that show, because the GDC 5 years ago was in one place, and as E3 went through its trials and tribulations, GDC was there to pick up. I mean, not all the slack, but it was there to pick up much of the important stuff, like really be
And
a
it
place.
was never weak. I mean, when Alan Yu left, I mean, it was very well respected.
Right.
But it was. I mean, you're right. It was a different kind of event. It was a lot more. Introverted is the wrong word, but it was very, very focused
More
on
scholastic.
Yeah, very scholastic, and very focused on developers talking to other developers. And Jamil helped open it up to a.
Well, but it made it more of a media event. But
Yeah.
at the same time, like some people wondered if that was the right direction.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. I think that he held it on a very knife edge between not falling into being a media event, but being a little more outward facing and when GDC came, especially in media, like we got this really cool feeling of being at least on the fringe of the development community and really getting to know those guys, and I don't want that to go away.
It's kind of on a path now towards becoming gaming's Sundance or Cannes, or
would be great.
Ultimately,
That would be great.
The public spectacle could be associate. You got the people talking to each other about the technology and everything at the same time. The way, I mean, particularly last year, that so much stuff was sort of debuted at GDC.
Right.
That I think that there were a lot of things that got on our radar. I mean, Braid was a GDC game, right?
Braid was,
Little Big Planet.
was
APB, yeah.
Little Big Planet.
Yeah.
Little Big Planet.
Notoriously a big GDC announcement 2 years ago. And then last but not least, and I just threw this in here because it's kind of strange, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about this whole thing. Square is kicking off a new series of trinkets that you can buy in their store. But when the thing that's unique about this one they're kicking it off with it is it's this crazy-looking pendant necklace thing that you can buy. But when you buy it, you get a copy of it in the game.
You're talking about a Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah, did I not say that?
You didn't.
Oh,
say
sorry.
that.
So this goes with their massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
I believe
Final Fantasy
James
11.
Milky is going to buy this pendant.
Oh, he's definitely buying it because he's telling me it's huge. Because
it's $43.
It's $43, and who gives a damn about that? But when you buy the pendant, you also get the pendant in the game, and the pendant in the game lets you teleport all over the world. So it gives you a power that you would not otherwise have.
I wish it would let me teleport in real life too.
I don't think this is surprising, considering at BlizzCon when you got like. I don't even know what it's called.
Murloc. Yeah.
Hi, people were spending like $500 for that on eBay. Like, it's not surprising.
Doesn't bother me.
I mean, like, for people that really identify with the game, and like, if you're into that kind of gothy kind of jewelry, I mean, it's
kind of gay looking.
It's kind of like
looks
like a screw with barbed wire around it on a leather chain thing. Whatever.
It looks like the logo for like the next Crow movie or something.
Yeah.
and I didn't mean that kind of gay. I just mean it's just kind of dumb looking. I mean, it's just kind of dumb looking.
That kind of gay.
Well, he was like,
wait to take out that hole.
Smart, not the smart gay, the dumb gay.
You were giving me the ugly look like I was being inappropriate. I didn't mean it. It's a sexual reference. I just meant it as it looks dumb.
Maybe I have a Final Fantasy pendant. Maybe you just haven't seen it.
Maybe.
Wow.
But I think that
Will you show it to me later?
This is not the end
What
of
is going on?
No.
We're going to see a lot of this kind of stuff coming.
Yeah, so the reason I threw this back in here is like, doesn't this tie back to Perry's thing about microtransactions and all that being the
But
way
at
of the
least
future?
you get something physical as well.
Yeah, I mean, do you really care about what you get there? I mean, it's
I think
a lanyard with
a lot of
trinket
people,
on
I think
it.
a lot of people do care about. I think if you could, like a lot of people, if there was a skull ring that gave you some power in some game, there'd be a lot of people would buy it.
A skull ring that gave you some power.
I would totally buy like a tiger. Get a tiger mountain. Wow.
I have an unrelated question.
Yes.
Was David Ellis here the whole time?
Yeah, no, he's been here the whole time. Yep. Just chilling.
I just saw a
asleep in his
foot.
chair.
I saw a foot in there and got scared.
It's David Ellis's dismembered foot.
Wow. All right.
There you go, folks. All right, that's the end of the big show.
This is our last show. Until next week when we're live.
That's right. Live at PAX in the evening at
6:30.
6:30 in some auditorium
The Walrus
someplace.
Theater.
Walrus
Please
Theater.
come see us because nobody's going to come see us.
Yeah, well, come see us.
We don't want to
And-
be all lonely.
8x10s signed for $20 by.
Glossy.
Fuck that.
10.
Garnet and his
Huh?
ego will sign an 8x10.
Wait,
But if you buy him a drink, that'll be $5.
if you buy me a drink, I'll do whatever you want me to.
Wow.
So we're going to Glamour Shots tomorrow to get these made.
I am not going to get a headshot, dude. I'm not like.
Go to Sears portrait. We can get all go.
Dude, let's.
I'll wear
Yeah.
my nice sweater.
Nice.
Get a haircut.
It's like
I want to
I'm
be-
having flashbacks of Lazy Muncie. Those guys going to Sears.
Will we posed on Corinthian columns? Like,
Yes.
nice.
See your
Oh,
pictures.
dear. All right. Anyway, so we'll be at PAX next week. Until then, you can shoot us a message, boards.oneup.com. We don't even really know what we're going to do. I think we're going to do question. We're going to do Q&A again.
Yes.
Dude, you keep asking me these questions as if I know.
You're the
when
producer.
You've already made these decisions. in
You
your
are
head.
the producer.
We have like 6 people coming. I'm just hearing about it today.
Yeah. So we'll have some people there. We'll have a microphone.
There's some tension for us to work through, Shane.
A little bit. Maybe I won't go.
Let's just get
Maybe
drunk.
I won't go.
John, let's just get drunk beforehand. All right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
I like that.
I want to participate in the getting drunk beforehand this time.
I was last time.
We did that last year as well.
It helped.
Me and Luke went holed up in some bar
I
somewhere
heard.
down the street.
Well,
And then you showed up right
And
before.
then I went and got drunk. Yeah, we all should have drunk except for you. We were
I know.
All, we were all like, why are you sober?
which is unusual.
The reverse.
Don't make that mistake this year.
All right. I won't make that mistake this year. Until next week for GC. Thanks for joining us, man. Hope you
Yes, of
enjoyed
course,
it.
of course.
You're welcome back anytime. It was a good time.
Sure thing, noob.
Oh God.
Shane, Andrew, John, this is Garnet. We'll talk to you next week. Until then, we are Ghost.